LoveLore Library. Chapter 545. Does Elderby have anything else to say? Nothing. Tangua stood up and walked out. I won't keep you company. Bai Wuqing hurriedly stood up and followed behind her. With every step she took, he followed. When she stopped, he stopped as well. The distance between them was neither too close nor too far. Tangua turned around and looked at the cold man. She smiled. Elderby, why are you following me? Don't tell me you also want to pester me and won't give up until you succeed. No. Bai Wuqing said innocently. Xiaogua, I didn't want to disturb you and didn't intend to keep following you. But I don't know what's wrong with my legs, but I can't control them. I can't help but follow behind you. Tangguo almost laughed out loud. This excuse was too funny. Bai Wuqing was such a calm and collected person. She didn't expect him to be so thick-skinned. Fine. I can't blame Elderby for not being able to control his legs. Tangguo shook her head and turned to leave. Bai Wuqing didn't hesitate at all and hurriedly followed. When Tangguo returned to her room, he stood guard at the door. When he heard someone coming out, he quickly distanced himself. His expression was as if he couldn't control his legs. It was enough to make people laugh to death. Host, I didn't expect Bai Wuqing to be like this. Bai Wuqing is so thick-skinned. This was the first time this knowledgeable system had seen something like this. He secretly observed Tangguo and found that she didn't hesitate or change her mind. He silently lit a candle for Bai Wuqing. After that, the entire devil sect realized something. No matter where the Saintess Ant went, as long as she left her room, Bai Wuqing would follow her from a distance. He didn't do anything else. He just followed and looked at their Saintess Ant with a pair of affectionate eyes. But the Saintess Ant didn't care at all. At first, they all hated Bai Wuqing. But later, they felt that Bai Wuqing was a little pitiful. Even if he was infatuated, he still couldn't obtain the Saintess Ant's pity. Just like that, Tangguo led the Devil Sect to develop, quietly strengthening the Devil Sect. Unknowingly, the Devil Sect had already included many small sects and medium-sized sects in their sphere of influence. In the beginning, they would rename those sects as Devil Sect branches. Later on, they would not change their names. They would only send 2 Devil Sect experts to those sects to intimidate them. This also led to many sects not knowing that the Devil Sect had expanded to an unimaginable extent. Everyone in the Devil's Doctrine knew that the Saintess had a special hobby of taking in disabled people as her disciples. Up until now, the Saintess Ant had about 20 disciples. At first, they were all disabled people, but later on, they all became extremely powerful. They couldn't help but admire the Saintess Ant's vision. Even among the disabled people, she could pick up treasures and fix them up, making them perfect. Every one of them was a 1 in a million genius. Every time a genius was persecuted by Feng failing, Tangguo would take them in without fail, and conveniently included their sect into the scope of the Devil Sect. In the beginning, Feng failing still knew that these sects were included in the Devil Sect. Later on, the Devil Sect only sent experts over, so Feng failing didn't find anything wrong. Ling Yiling wholeheartedly followed Feng failing, and these few years, he didn't pay much attention to the Devil Sect. Every time he returned to the Devil Sect, he could see huge changes, and all of them were for the better. Out of selfishness, Ling Yiling never revealed to Feng failing that Tangguo was in the Devil Sect, and that she was the Saintess Ant. Many people in the outside world were very curious about the Saintess Ant of the Devil Sect. On this day, Tangguo put on a veiled bamboo hat. Seeing this, Mo Yuntian hurriedly stood up. Sister, where are you going this time? Chapter 546. Saint Yuan Sect. Mo Yuntian was a little surprised. Sister, are you sure it's Saint Yuan sect? Saint Yuan sect was a big sect that was not inferior to Star Moon sect. This sister was planning to do something big this time. Mo Yuntian's mouth twitched. He really wanted to be alone. But he still couldn't help but ask curiously, Sister, who's the disabled this time? It was no wonder he asked this. All these years, every time Tang Guo went out, she would bring back many disabled people. Although they were all repaired, they were still disabled. He filtered through the various young geniuses of Saint Yuan sect one by one and hesitated. In the past 2 years, the most outstanding genius is Ji Qingshan. But Ji Qingshan is already 20 years old this year, about the same age as you. He was suddenly startled. He didn't expect that the school beauty had already lived in this world for so many years. The more he went, the more he felt that she could leave at any time. She was decisive and didn't procrastinate at all. She seemed to have the guts to settle things here and leave as soon as possible. This made Mo Yuntian uncomfortable. It's him. Tang Guo smiled. Brother Mo, let's go. If we're late, he'll lose his life. Mo Yuntian didn't hesitate. He quickly selected the disciples and brought them to Saint Yuan sect. As for Bai Wuqing, he naturally followed behind. Mo Yuntian was too lazy to care about him. At this time, something was happening in Saint Yuan sect. Star Moon sect's Feng Feiling had somehow formed a grudge with Saint Origin sect's genius disciple, Ji Qingshan. The two of them planned to fight in the life and death arena. The sect masters of both sects had also come to witness this event. Qingshan, are you sure you want to fight to the death? The sect leader of Saint Yuan sect was a little worried. Feng Feiling isn't someone to be trifled with. In the life and death arena, only one of you will survive. Are you sure? Ji Qingshan frowned. Sect leader, this isn't something I'm sure of. I've never done that before. If she wants to fight to the death, then so be it. Sigh, Qingshan, she's at the body fusion stage. You're at the spirit severing stage. This was what the sect leader of Saint Yuan sect was worried about. Qingshan, why don't you just admit to it and cripple your own cultivation? At the very least, you'll be able to keep your life. Ji Qingshan's talent was simply too good. The Saint Origin sect master couldn't bear to see him lose his life. Even if his cultivation was crippled, at least he would still be alive. As long as he was alive, there would be endless hope. It was not impossible for him to recover. Impossible. Ji Qingshan's expression turned cold. It was absolutely impossible for him to admit that he would do such a thing. His innate talent was excellent, and there were countless female cultivators who adored him. How could he possibly torture a female cultivator to death? Coincidentally, this female cultivator was Feng Feiling's good friend. Ji Qingshan, what are you dawdling for? Hurry up and accept your death. Feng Feiling stood on the life and death arena with a face full of hatred. Today, I will avenge Pei Shui and personally send you, this villain, to hell. Ji Qingshan ignored everyone's attempts to stop him and leaped onto the life and death ring with his sword in hand. I told you, I didn't do it. I was just passing by. Feng Feiling's expression turned cold. Everyone saw you kidnap Pei Shui. If it wasn't you, then who did it? You didn't expect that I would just happen to pass by and see your evil deeds, right? Pei Shui has a face that can cause the downfall of a country. It's not impossible for you to have designs on her. Hypocrite, you did it, but you don't even admit it. Bah! Ji Qingshan really didn't know how to explain it. What annoyed him was that many people said he was the one who kidnapped Pei Shui. Chapter 547. Sister, aren't we going to the Saint Origin sect? This doesn't seem to be the direction to the Saint Origin sect. Mo Yuntian did not understand why Tang Guo wanted to come to this remote devil cultivator town first. This place was very chaotic and there were devil cultivators who ate other cultivators to cultivate. Ordinary cultivators would not dare to come to this remote devil cultivator town. Let's find someone. Tang Guo's direction was very clear. Mo Yuntian and Bai Wuqing did not know who she was looking for. Host, found. That fellow is in an inn and is about to consume the pill Feng Feiling gave him. What direction? The system quickly informed. Mo Yuntian and Bai Wuqing saw Tang Guo, who was originally walking quickly, suddenly run in a certain direction. They did not think too much and quickly followed. Tang Guo kicked open the door of a room. Inside, there was an ugly devil cultivator wearing a black robe. When he saw a beautiful woman walk in, he stopped swallowing pills and stared at Tang Guo, unable to move his eyes away. Bai Wuqing's cold face had a hint of coldness and anger. He walked up and stood in front of Tang Guo. Tang Guo walked past him and stopped in front of the devil cultivator. Bai Wuqing was speechless. Beauty, you came here specially to find me. The devil cultivator was very strong. He did not think that Tang Guo could do anything to him. He only looked at Tang Guo with an infatuated gaze. Even if the veil covered her face, just based on her figure, he could tell that she was a beauty. Last time, he did not have enough fun. Due to some people's request, he had no choice but to destroy the flower. This time, the beauty delivered herself to him. No matter what, he had to have a good time. Tang Guo glanced at the jade bottle in the devil cultivator's hand. It contained a very precious pill that Feng Feiling gave him that could help him break through his cultivation. Seeing that Tang Guo was looking at his pill bottle, the devil cultivator was delighted. If you want to serve me well, I'll give you this pill. Bai Wuqing pursed his lips. If it wasn't for the fact that he was afraid of ruining her plans, he would have definitely gone up and chopped off this dog's head with his sword. The demon cultivator still wanted to say something, but Tang Guo easily snatched the pill bottle away. Feng Feiling gave it to you, right? The demonic cultivator's expression changed. How did the other party know that Feng Feiling had indeed made a deal with him? The price was for him to do something, and the reward was this medicinal pill. After eating it, he could jump 2 levels. What do you mean? The demon cultivator felt that something was wrong and wanted to turn around and run away. However, Tang Guo was too fast. He felt a sharp pain in his body and looked down. It turned out that Tang Guo had stabbed his dantian with a knife and stirred it twice. Feeling the power in his body gradually dissipating, the demon cultivator's face turned sinister. His eyes flashed with madness as he planned to perish together with her. Bai Wuqing was 1 step ahead of him and cut off his last struggle. He even cut off the tendons in his hands and feet. Bai Wuqing withdrew his sword and acted as if he did not see Tang Guo's strange gaze. He said happily in his heart, I saw that he wanted to use the last of his strength to self-destruct, so I made the first move. The demon cultivator kept staring until Tang Guo fed the pill to a rat. He saw the rat's body explode into a bloody mist with his own eyes. His originally pale face became even paler. He clenched his teeth and cursed under his breath. Feng Feiling actually dared to play with him. If he really took this pill, he was afraid that he would be the same as this rat. This woman really had a heart of snakes and scorpions. Chapter 548. Pei Shui is my, Feng Feiling's, good friend. I really didn't expect that she would encounter such a thing. Feng Feiling stood in the life and death arena and glanced at the dying Ji Qingshan. He pointed his sword at Ji Qingshan's neck. Ji Qingshan, Pei Shui has no enmity with you. Even if you love her and were rejected by her, you shouldn't treat her so cruelly. Ji Qingshan lay on the ground weakly. His vision was a bit blurry, but he could still see Feng Feiling's expression clearly. He couldn't understand the joy hidden in his eyes under the righteous appearance. He didn't know Feng Feiling before and had no enmity with him. He had only met Pei Shui twice and had only spoken a few words. As for him loving Pei Shui, there was no such thing. Torturing a woman wasn't something he, Ji Qingshan, could do. He couldn't understand why Feng Feiling was so sure that he was the one who did it. Moreover, there were so many witnesses who said that he kidnapped Pei Shui who had no cultivation. Yes, Pei Shui was a woman who couldn't cultivate. Her appearance was indeed devastatingly beautiful. Even if she couldn't cultivate, her comprehension ability was highly valued by the Pei family. She couldn't cultivate, but she could comprehend a cultivation technique and explain it to others. It was also a rare ability. He had talked to Pei Shui before, but it was only when he encountered something he didn't understand and seriously asked for advice. He only had some respect and admiration for Pei Shui and didn't have any other thoughts. With so much evidence showing that he was the one who tortured Pei Shui to death, other than the Saint Yuan sect master, no one would believe that he was innocent. He originally wanted to prove his innocence on the arena, but he didn't expect Feng Feiling's strength to be so terrifying that he wasn't his opponent. Now that he was going to die in Feng Feiling's hands and die with injustice, his heart was filled with unwillingness. Today, I, Feng Feiling, will kill this vicious person here. Feng Feiling raised his chin and looked at Ji Qingshan condescendingly. Genius. This was the genius of the Saint Origin sect, Ji Qingshan. He was the one who had watched her suffer in the hands of a group of demonic cultivators, but he still loved Pei Shui so much that he was willing to give up his cultivation for Pei Shui. In this life, she had personally delivered Pei Shui to the hands of the devil cultivators and let Ji Qingshan watch Pei Shui die in such a miserable manner. Now, Ji Qingshan was going to die in her hands, and he was going to die with such a heinous reputation. She hated the geniuses of this world to the core. She would slowly kill all of them. It had been almost 5 years. Starting from Tanghua, one genius after another had fallen into her hands. She was really excited and happy. Now she was also at the form synthesis stage. In the future, all the famous geniuses would be ruined by her. Even if they didn't die, they would either lose their cultivation or their fortuitous encounter. Their sect would fall into decline, and it would be impossible for them to grow again. She had even paid special attention to these people. After their opportunities were destroyed, there was no news of these people at all. It could be seen that they had long disappeared into the crowd. Perhaps they were already dead. Ji Qingshan didn't miss the smugness and madness in Feng Feiling's eyes. Feng Feiling's gaze was filled with delight and excitement. Ji Qingshan, I'm going to avenge Pei Shui now. Feng Feiling raised his sword and slashed towards Ji Qingshan's neck. On the life and death stage, no one stopped him. Those who went up were all willing. Even the Saint Yuan sect master could only watch. In the end, he couldn't bear to watch and turned his head away. Clang! The sound of a sword falling to the ground rang out. A white-clothed woman wearing a veil and bamboo hat appeared on the life and death stage. She was the one who knocked down Feng Feiling's sword. Feng Feiling was even forced to take a few steps back. He looked at the person in front of him with disbelief and anger. Who are you? Do you know this is the life and death stage? Chapter 549. Ji Qingshan thought he was going to die for sure, but he also heard the sound of his sword being knocked down. He opened his eyes and saw the back of a graceful woman. He was a little shocked that someone dared to interfere with the battle in the life and death arena. He heard the woman in white say, "You asked who I am, but they all call me Aunt Saintess." Ji Qingshan was shocked. Aunt Saintess of the Devil sect. Mo Yuntian stood in the crowd and wiped his sweat. This girl never played her cards according to common sense. She even dared to interrupt the battle in the life and death arena. Devil Sect. Feng Feiling frowned and glanced at Ling Yiling below the arena, as if to ask why someone from the Devil Sect would come here and ruin her plans. Ling Yiling's body was a little stiff. He jumped to Feng Feiling's side and looked at Tanguo unhappily. Why are you here? Naturally, I'm here to save someone. Tanguo's voice sounded like a smile. She pointed at Ji Qingshan, who was lying on the ground. The person I want to save is him. Feng Feiling said coldly, this is the life and death arena. Since you're here, it means that both of us are willing to risk our lives. No one has the right to stop us. Aunt Saintis, right? Seeing that you're from the Devil's Sect and have some relationship with Brother Yiling, I can let you go. Hurry up and get down. These words warmed Ling Yiling's heart. After being together with Ling for so long, she still cared about him. Even if she was a little cold to him occasionally, at least he was different in her heart. This isn't the Devil's Sect. You can't mess around here. Ling is already letting you go. Hurry up and get down, Ling Yiling said impatiently. He really didn't expect Tanguo to come. It wasn't good to be obedient in the Devil's Sect. Why did she have to come here to provoke Ling? What you didn't even greet your aunt when you saw her. You're really rude. Ling Yiling's face darkened. What nonsense are you talking about? Isn't it that you shouldn't call me aunt? Tanguo. Ling Yiling was so angry that he finally forgot where he was and couldn't help but shout out in front of Feng Feiling. After shouting, he felt that things weren't going well. Feng Feiling grabbed Ling Yiling. What did you call her? Her expression was unclear. If she didn't hear wrongly, Ling Yiling called out the two words, Tanguo, just now. Ling Yiling realized that he couldn't fool her, so he had no choice but to say, she's Tanguo. What? How is that possible? Feng Feiling widened his eyes and looked at Ling Yiling with a hurt expression. He must have known all along, so why did he still lie to her? Her heart was in a mess. Shouldn't Tanguo's spirit root have been destroyed? That attack just now was something that even she could not withstand. What was going on? What exactly happened after Tanguo disappeared? Brother Yiling, you lied to me. Tanguo is actually in the Devil's Sect. Could it be you? Ling Yiling's heart was in a mess and he hurriedly explained, Ling, listen to me. It's not what you think. I don't know how she went to the Devil's Sect either. I was just afraid that you would misunderstand, so I didn't tell you. Previously, she had always been in the Devil's Sect and didn't think of coming out. Feng Feiling believed Ling Yiling's words. The other party's anxious look didn't seem to be in cahoots with Tanguo. As for why Tanguo became the aunt of the Devil's Sect's holy maiden, there might be other reasons. However, she wouldn't show that she believed Ling Yiling's explanation. Brother Yiling, you've really disappointed me. She harmed me once, and now she wants to stop me from avenging Pei Shui. She clearly has bad intentions, yet you still condone her in the Devil's Sect. Everyone, this aunt of the Devil's Sect's holy maiden is Tanguo, who was expelled by my Star Moon sect back then. She stole the sect's treasure and failed to harm me, so her spirit root was destroyed. I don't know how she sneaked into the Devil's Sect again. Feng Feiling said loudly to the crowd, now, she even wants to interfere in the life and death arena's battle to stop me from killing Ji Qingshan to avenge my good friend. I really don't understand why she wants to go against me. Chapter 550. The onlookers looked at each other in dismay. Their scrutinizing gazes fell on Tanguo's body, trying to see through the veil bamboo hat to see the true face of this woman. Was she really Tanguo? Tanguo was rather straightforward. She raised her hand and took off the bamboo hat, revealing a delicate and perfect face. The corner of her lips curled up, and there was not the slightest bit of panic on her face. She quietly stood on the life and death stage. My name is indeed Tanguo. Just as Feng Feiling said, my spirit root was once destroyed and I was expelled from the Star Moon sect. As for how I sneaked into the Devil sect, this should not be something that everyone should pay attention to. I'm also not a disciple of the Star Moon sect, so I can go wherever I want. No one can stop me. And why did I stop Feng Feiling from killing Ji Qingshan? Tanguo chuckled. It's probably because I don't like her and always wanted to ruin her plans. Hearing Tanguo admit it herself, Feng Feiling was a bit startled. When she reacted, she said with resentment, "You're clearly the one who failed to harm me and suffered the consequences of your own actions. Because you don't like me, you want to stop me from killing Ji Qingshan, this evil person. You don't want me to take revenge for my good friend." Seeing Feng Feiling's righteous face, as if she couldn't wait to take revenge for her good friend, Tanguo sneered. "Pei Shui, is she really your good friend?" "Naturally," Feng Feiling said without thinking. She didn't know why, but her heart was a bit flustered. Her plan was very good, and it could be said that it was flawless. That devil cultivator had most likely taken that pill and died in self-defense. No one else would know about her plan. The Pei family was also here, and they were also very dissatisfied with Tanguo's sudden appearance. However, people from the Devil sect were not to be trifled with. Even Mo Yuntian came. Even if he didn't say anything, judging from his attitude, he seemed to be on Tanguo's side. And Tanguo was also the aunt of the Devil sect's holy maiden. That mysterious woman, the Pei family thought that they could wait and see. Feng Feiling, you're a vicious woman. Without waiting for Tanguo to say anything, the devil cultivator who had been watching from below could no longer hold back. He knew that he would not have a good ending, but the woman who had harmed him would not have a good ending either. Now, at least he was still alive. If he really took that pill, he would really die with grievances. The sudden voice caused everyone to be stunned. Mo Yuntian received Tanguo's signal and brought the devil cultivator to the life and death arena. The demonic cultivators who ate cultivators had a bloody aura all over their bodies. It was an evil and uncomfortable aura. When he stood up, everyone understood that this demonic cultivator must have taken the lives of many cultivators. They couldn't help but look at him with disgust. The reason why the Devil sect was not rejected by the righteous sects was because the cultivators of the Devil sect only had the title of Devil Cultivator in name. They did not cultivate by eating other cultivators. Other than having a bad name, they were not much different from ordinary cultivators. When Feng Feiling saw that Devil Cultivator, he felt that something was wrong. "Who are you?" She pretended to be calm and asked. So what if she found this devil cultivator? As for why she found this devil cultivator, he was one of the people who had harmed her in her previous life. The other people's whereabouts were uncertain. She just happened to meet him, killing two birds with one stone. The devil cultivator could not help but laugh. "Who am I?" "Feng Feiling, I have been a devil cultivator for so many years in vain. My heart is not as vicious as a woman like you." He looked at the doubtful gazes of the people present. "Feng Feiling is the most vicious woman. Pei Shui's death was caused by her." "Nonsense." Chapter 551. Feng Feiling's heart was in a mess, but her face was calm. She looked at Tanguo with a mocking and bright smile on her beautiful face. "Tanguo, in order to frame me, you didn't hesitate to collude with a demonic cultivator." Tanguo smiled. "Oh, is that so?" She glanced at the demonic cultivator. A crazed look flashed across the demonic cultivator's face as he took out an image stone. Whether I'm speaking the truth or not, you'll know when you see what's inside. Without waiting for Feng Feiling to react, he activated the image stone and let everyone see the image inside. This was a somewhat dark room, but they could still clearly see the situation in the room. There were two people, one was the demonic cultivator himself, and the other was Feng Feiling. They heard Feng Feiling say that he wanted to use a precious pill as a reward to let the demonic cultivator deal with someone. That person was Pei Shui. They saw Feng Feiling's sinister face, saying that he wanted Pei Shui to die miserably and let the demonic cultivator play with her however he wanted. Everyone widened their eyes, and the Pei family was even more astonished and furious. As for the Saint Origin sect master, he was relieved. Now that the evidence was conclusive, Ji Qingshan's injustice could be considered cleared. Wen Ziqiu was also stunned for a moment. He didn't dare to believe that the woman with a crazed face and a vengeful aura in the image stone was his beloved Feng Feiling. Ling Yiling couldn't help but take a step back and looked at Feng Feiling with a somewhat unfamiliar gaze. If Feng Feiling wanted to take revenge on Tanguo, it was Tanguo who framed her and wanted to destroy her spirit root. This was understandable. As for Pei Shui, she didn't seem to have done anything wrong to Feng Feiling. A long time ago, he discovered that Feng Feiling was sometimes very extreme. But who asked him to like her? Even if she was full of flaws, he could still tolerate it. He deeply liked her because when his entire family was annihilated and he woke up, he was dragged to a cave to hide by a little girl. When he opened his eyes, he saw the little girl in red, and he recognized her at first glance. Even when he was brought back to the Devil's Sect by Mo Yuntian, he never forgot about her. Fortunately, he met her again later. If he hadn't seen the image in the image stone with his own eyes, he wouldn't have believed that the person who harmed Pei Shui was actually Feng Feiling. He said that he wanted to make Pei Shui suffer so much that she would wish she was dead. He wanted that devil cultivator to play with her however he wanted and find as many people as he wanted. Feng Feiling completely didn't expect that devil cultivator to be so cunning. While she wasn't paying attention, she actually left behind an image stone and even recorded these scenes. Tanguo hadn't thought of this. She wasn't clear about the timeline of the story. Everything could change the timeline. Originally, she planned to find Pei Shui first, but before she could react, she heard Feng Feiling and Ji Qingshan's life and death battle, and understood that Pei Shui had already been killed. Man proposes, God disposes. Just like those geniuses that she had picked up, she was not a savior. If she could pick them up, she would pick them up. If she couldn't, she could only say that the slim chance of survival did not belong to them. Ling He, did you really do this? The one who couldn't accept it the most was Ling Yiling. This red-clothed girl had always been a warm sun in his heart. It was also this warm sun that supported him until now, and in the end, he personally took revenge for his blood feud. Feng Feiling pursed his lips, and a trace of madness flashed across his face. So what if I did? Don't you like me? Just because I harmed Pei Shui, you think I'm vicious? Haven't you thought about why I harmed Pei Shui? Hearing Feng Feiling's increasingly outrageous words, the Pei family finally couldn't hold it in anymore. Shui has always been a good girl. Tell me, how did she treat you? What deep hatred do you have for you to treat her like this? Chapter 552. Today was the worst day since Feng Feiling's rebirth. She had never thought that a reincarnated person like her would end up in such a state. She was the one who seized all the secrets of heaven and stepped on all the geniuses she disliked. Only Pei Shui and Ji Qingshan were left. Ji Qingshan was about to die in her hands. As for Ling Yiling, she had already thought of his ending. On the day of Ling Yiling's tribulation, she would tell Ling Yiling the truth, including the fact that she wasn't the one who dragged Ling Yiling into the cave. This was her revenge on Lang Yiling. She would make Lang Yiling lose his mind and die under the lightning tribulation. Only then would she be able to take revenge for her crippling of his spirit root and being tortured by a group of devil cultivators. Lang Yiling's love didn't belong to her at all. She was very clear about this. If Lang Yiling hadn't opened his eyes and saw her, thinking that she saved him, he wouldn't have even looked at her. She didn't care about the love of these men. Love couldn't be compared to absolute strength. In this life, after she took revenge on her enemies and pulled down the high and mighty people, she only pursued strength. She was going to ascend to the immortal world. Lang Yiling was nothing. But she didn't expect that before she could finish her revenge, she made a mistake in the matter of Pei Shui. That devil cultivator didn't explode after taking the pill and even left evidence of her dealing with Pei Shui. She even showed this image to everyone. Facing the shocked and disgusted gazes of countless people, it reminded Feng Feiling of her previous life. It was the same. Those despicable people also looked at her like this. I dealt with Pei Shui because of you. Feng Feiling couldn't find a good excuse for the time being. Since Pei Shui was already dead, she might as well make use of it and splash dirty water on Pei Shui. That day, she shamelessly looked for me, saying that she liked you and wanted me to give you to her. If I didn't give you to her, she wouldn't treat me as a friend. She even said that she couldn't cultivate and could only live for 100 years at most. She wanted me to fulfill her wish. It was Pei Shui who provoked me first. Feng Feiling had a stubborn and crazy look on his face. There were even a few drops of tears in his eyes. Big brother Yiling, I just couldn't help it. You've been by my side for so many years. I really couldn't help it when someone else had designs on you. I told her it was impossible. Do you know what she said in the end? She said that if I didn't give you to her, she would think of a way herself. With her smart brain, she would definitely snatch you away. Now, you're actually looking at me with such a gaze. Feng Feiling looked hurt. Forget it, I'm the one who harmed Pei Shui. She looked at the Pei family. If you want to take revenge on me, then come. I'm not afraid of you. I'm the one who harmed Pei Shui, but she provoked me first. Feng Feiling, just can't stand it. A slut who always wants to steal my man, she deserves to die. After Feng Feiling said this, many people felt that she had a reason for doing this. If Pei Shui didn't want to snatch Lang Yiling away, she wouldn't let Feng Feiling take revenge. Even the Pei family members were hesitating. If Pei Shui really did this, they would be embarrassed enough. Wen Ziqiu, on the other hand, sighed in relief. He was a little jealous. Linger had actually done this for Lang Yiling, and now she was still doubting her. He really felt that Linger wasn't worth it. He walked to Feng Feiling's side. Linger, come back with master. He looked at the Pei family members. Linger was in the wrong regarding Pei Shui's matter, but she asked for it herself. Since Linger was in the wrong, my Star Moon sect will give your Pei family a certain amount of compensation. Patriarch Pei, come to my Star Moon sect to discuss the details. The Pei family members who were originally dissatisfied all hesitated. They didn't directly agree, but they also didn't refuse. In fact, they were already calculating how much benefits they could get from the Star Moon sect. No matter how smart Pei Shui was, she couldn't cultivate. Now that she was dead, they might as well take advantage of this to get some benefits. Tang Guo glanced at Feng Feiling. He wanted to escape so easily. It wasn't that easy. There were still many things waiting for Feng Feiling. She used her sword to poke Ji Qingshan, who was still lying on the ground. Young Master Ji, can you still get up? Chapter 553. Tongzi, give me the soul-gathering talisman. Okay, host. Soul-gathering talisman. This wasn't a simple soul-gathering talisman. Demonic cultivators' methods were extremely cruel. Everyone was a cultivator, and in order to prevent others from finding out the truth, cultivators would fight each other. In the end, one side would be defeated and die. Especially in this matter, with that demonic cultivator's treachery, he definitely wouldn't leave Pei Shue's soul behind. He would definitely destroy it. The soul-gathering talisman that Tang Guo took out was something she obtained in the immortal world. This thing wasn't easy to find in the immortal world, and it was only because her status was high enough that she was able to obtain a few. She asked the demonic cultivator about the location where Pei Shui was tortured to death and went there with the soul-gathering talisman. As for that demonic cultivator, after the truth was revealed, she killed him with a sword. How could she let someone who tortured innocent women off? Bai Wuqing was already following closely behind Tang Guo. He watched as she stopped at a certain place and took out something similar to a talisman. Not long after, specks of light gradually gathered in the surroundings, forming a graceful figure. He didn't know Pei Shui, nor had he seen her before, but he could tell from her soul that she was a very beautiful woman. However, no matter how beautiful she was, she couldn't attract his attention. His attention quickly fell on Tang Guo. He heard her say, Pei Shui. Pei Shui was at a loss for a moment, but she quickly recalled her previous experience. She recalled how she was treated by that ugly demonic cultivator. Tang Guo briefly explained Feng Feiling's explanation. With Pei Shui's intelligence, she immediately understood that the person who wanted to harm her was Feng Feiling. Why did he want to harm me? Pei Shui was on the verge of collapse. Hearing that the Pei clan actually agreed to Wen Ziqiu's compensation and not pursue Feng Feiling's wrongdoings, she couldn't help but cry. She had done so much for the Pei clan. If it weren't for her extraordinary comprehension ability, she would be able to see through the essence of a cultivation technique with a glance. She would also be able to find the flaws in the moves that others used. Could the Pei clan have developed from a small clan to an upper-middle clan today? Pei Shui suddenly felt that she wasn't worth it, whether it was the Pei family or Feng Feiling, who she wholeheartedly treated as a close friend. A few years ago, she and Feng Feiling got to know each other. She knew that Feng Feiling's cultivation hadn't improved for many years. She flipped through countless books and finally found a way to help Feng Feiling break through his bottleneck. She really didn't expect that in the end, it was Feng Feiling who personally pushed her to a cruel devil cultivator. That devil cultivator simply wasn't human. He tortured her day and night, and even extinguished her soul in the end. Her soul had been gathered again, and it was the doing of this exquisite woman in front of her. She was not a fool, and the other party must have paid a huge price to help her gather her soul. What do you want me to do? This was Pei Shui's second question. You helped me gather my soul and told me the truth. I believe you're not a selfless person. Having been exposed, Tang Guo chuckled. My goal is very simple. You live well. No matter what form you take, just anger Feng Feiling to death. The people that Feng Feiling wants to kill, I want to save. The goal that she wants to achieve, I want to destroy. If she directly killed Feng Feiling, the other party definitely wouldn't feel too much pain. The best way to deal with a lunatic like Feng Feiling was to make the other party unable to get what he wanted. Let the other party think that he had achieved his goal, but in the end, it was all for naught. Let the other party think that the geniuses that she had persecuted were all dead. In the end, she discovered that these geniuses were even more terrifying than the ones in her previous life. Thinking back to that time, Tang Guo couldn't help but be curious about how Feng Feiling would collapse. System, so cool. Great host is indeed that evil woman. In order to have fun in every world, she didn't hesitate to spend a lot of effort to scheme. This group of geniuses can be considered lucky. Chapter 554. The disciples of the devil's sect had already prostrated themselves in admiration of the saintess ant. The ones they picked up before were all disabled. This time, they simply picked up one that floated back. It was a soul that had been severely damaged and needed to be nurtured in the jade lotus for a long time. Pei Shui, who was nurturing her soul in the jade pendant, was also puzzled by Tangua's actions. She spent so much effort to gather her soul just to anger Feng Failing to death. She shook her head and stayed in the jade pendant at ease, flipping through the soul cultivation technique that Tangua threw to her. When she was a human, she couldn't cultivate because of her physique. Now that she had become a soul, she could cultivate this soul cultivation technique. She could tell at a glance that this technique was extremely advanced. It was more powerful than any other cultivation technique she had seen before. In addition, she had an extremely intelligent brain. Her ability to comprehend cultivation techniques seemed to be a kind of innate ability. Her cultivation speed was extremely fast. Tangua was in a wonderful mood. Most of the geniuses under her were her disciples. Those who weren't her disciples were brought to the devil's sect by her. All of them were from the devil's sect and had a grudge against Feng Failing. Even that Ji Qingshan often ran to the devil's sect. He almost treated the devil's sect as his home. The sect master of the Saint Origin sect didn't stop him. The elders couldn't do anything either. Who told Feng Failing to kill Ji Qingshan and frame him? Not only did they not stop him, the elders who had disciples with potential couldn't wait for something to happen to Ji Qingshan. Now, it was too late to regret. Not long after, Ji Qingshan simply left the identity of a disciple of the Saint Origin sect. The sect master didn't stop him. Previously, Feng Failing had succeeded so easily. Those who stood out to accuse Ji Qingshan were not only people arranged by Feng Failing, but also disciples of the Saint Origin sect. This already made Ji Qingshan's heart cold. He might as well come to the devil's sect. After the disciples of the devil's sect knew that Ji Qingshan had joined the devil's sect, they looked at each other. Finally, in front of Ji Qingshan, they sighed. This time, he's healthy. And Saintess Ant finally stopped picking up disabled people. Ji Qingshan was baffled by those two sentences. But he quickly understood. Because in the devil's sect, he found many geniuses, none of them inferior to him. My name is Wen Yi. Aunt Saintess is my master. I am her eldest disciple. My name is Gu Qin, I'm her second disciple. My name is... We were all picked up by Master when we were at our lowest, almost crippled. Me too. Although I'm not the Saintess's disciple, in my heart, she's like my second parent. The one who spoke was Luo Qin. I was fished out of the river by Aunt Saintess. I almost died at that time. Aunt Saintess is really a pure person. She's not even greedy for good opportunities. Luo Qin sighed. He had never seen such a carefree person. Master always said that he didn't need our repayment. The only thing he said the most was for us to cultivate diligently, then one day, we'll appear in front of Feng Failing together and anger her to death. Wen Yi couldn't help but laugh, although we don't know why, we really want to repay her, so we're wholeheartedly cultivating, waiting for the time when we can anger Feng Failing to death. Ji Qingshan, who hadn't come back to his senses, in the end, he choked out a sentence. I almost died too. I died under Feng Failing's sword. It was she who suddenly appeared and sent Feng Failing flying with a sword. That's how I managed to survive. Then we're all brothers. Luo Qin put his arm around Ji Qingshan's shoulder. Congratulations, Brother Qingshan. You can be considered as having been picked up by Aunt Saintess. Chapter 555. When Pei Shui's soul was almost fully nourished and cultivated to the point where she could appear in front of everyone, Tangua gave Pei Shui a task. She was to explain cultivation techniques to her group of genius disciples and the entire devil sect. Pei Shui was indeed born with the ability to see through the essence of a cultivation technique. As long as the person wasn't stupid, he or she would make great progress after reading the cultivation technique. Pei Shui was sad about what happened in the past and was also disappointed in the Pei clan. She heard from the disciples of the Devil sect that the Star Moon sect's Wen Ziqiu had promised the Pei clan many benefits. The Pei clan decided to cover up the matter of Feng Feiling secretly harming her. The Pei clan even admitted in front of everyone that she, Pei Shui, had indeed expressed her love for Leng Yiling in front of many people, indirectly helping Feng Feiling admit that the reason why he attacked her was because she wanted Leng Yiling. When Pei Shui heard this, she was stunned for a long time. She grew up in the Pei clan and didn't want to be a cripple and let down the Pei clan's nurturing. She flipped through countless cultivation techniques day and night for the Pei clan and summed up the fastest cultivation method. She was afraid that she would let down the Pei clan's efforts. In this world, there was probably nothing more painful than the betrayal of the clan that she once loved wholeheartedly. Miss Pei, don't be sad. Now that you have the devil sect behind you and a saintess aunt is on your side. Pei Shui came back to her senses and nodded to Ji Qingshan. Young Master Ji is right, I shouldn't be sad. She wiped the tears from the corner of her eyes. I was too foolish to think that the Pei clan would at least have some feelings for me. Even if they didn't take revenge for me, they would protect my reputation. I didn't expect, Miss Pei, the saintess aunt gave me a cultivation technique. There are many parts that I don't understand, so I'll have to trouble you today. Ji Qingshan seemed unwilling to let Pei Shui fall into depression and quickly changed the topic. Originally, he didn't have any feelings for Pei Shui, but since the two of them came to the devil sect, he understood Pei Shui a lot more. She was a beautiful and kind-hearted girl. He didn't know how she provoked Feng Feiling and met with those things. After interacting with Pei Shui, he was very sure that she didn't like Leng Yiling. Feng Feiling's words were definitely just to find a reason to absolve herself of her sins. He felt a lot of pity for this girl. As he felt pity for her, he couldn't help but have other thoughts. Pei Shui was extremely intelligent and immediately sensed it. The two of them didn't intend to point it out, but the others did. As long as the two of them were together, they wouldn't tactfully approach them. When Tang Guo heard that the two of them were planning to become Dao companions, she was also startled. This must be fate, she said to the system. After so many things have happened, the two of them still ended up together. However, compared to their previous lives, where Ji Qingshan had dispersed his cultivation and lived an ordinary life with Pei Shui, they could be together for a longer time in this life. It's just that the price is a little high. Pei Shui was also a very powerful person. If it was an ordinary woman who encountered such a thing, she definitely wouldn't have walked out so quickly. The group of geniuses under Tang Guo were diligently cultivating every day. At the same time, Feng Feiling's movements weren't small either. Now that the Devil Sect's information network spread throughout the entire cultivation world, Tang Guo would be able to know if there was any slight movement. Feng Feiling didn't know why, but he had a conflict with the true martial sect. Even when Ziqiu wanted to lead the entire Star Moon sect to suppress the true martial sect. Chapter 556. How could Tang Guo miss out on such a lively event? Pei Shui and Ji Qingshan held the white shirt and skirt in their hands, as well as a veil bamboo hat. They looked at each other in dismay as they looked at the geniuses who had already changed into their uniforms. Their minds were a little muddled. What were they going to do? Wen Yi whispered to the two of them, "Today, Master is bringing us to experience it." In fact, they didn't understand. If Master hated Feng Feiling, she should have many ways to kill him. Why did she have to nurture them and let them grow up to anger Feng Feiling to death? But this time, they weren't going to show their faces. They were only going to meet Tanghua. In her words, it was to pave the way for Feng Failing to know that there was a group of people around her, but he didn't know their true identities. Miss Pei, when you see Feng Failing, don't expose yourself. Master said that she will give you a chance to take revenge, but not now. This isn't a good time. Pei Shui and Ji Qingshan looked at each other, then she asked, did Aunt Sainta say when is a good time? When Feng Failing is going through his tribulation, Gu Qin hurriedly said. Her beautiful eyes seemed to be able to speak. Master said this to us a while ago. Although we don't understand why she has to wait for Feng Failing to go through his tribulation. If we all appear together, it will anger him to death. But if Master wants to play like this, we'll play with her and let her have fun. Pei Shui nodded thoughtfully. She felt that Aunt Sainta's actions had a deeper meaning. Master also said that it's best for us to go through our tribulation before Feng Failing, and we have to ascend in front of her. When Yi couldn't help but add, we can't guess Master's thoughts. Pei Shui couldn't help it this time. What exactly was Aunt Sainta's thinking? Even if she was clear in her heart, she still couldn't guess. Thinking of that Feng Failing, she also couldn't see through his nature, so Pei Shui didn't tangle on this issue. The group of people dressed up and set off with Tanghua. When they arrived at the True Martial Sect, the disciples of the Star Moon Sect had already broken the True Martial Sect's formation. Among them, Wen Ziqiu and Feng Failing took the lead. Ling Yiling also stayed by Pei Shui's side at all times. Looking at his appearance, it seemed that he was not affected by the previous incident. Instead, his feelings for Pei Shui became even better. Mo Yuntian realized that Ling Yiling was looking at him with some resentment, as if he shouldn't have allowed Tanghua to come here. Mo Yuntian was furious. He was completely disappointed in this disciple of his. Anyone could see that Feng Failing was a vicious and merciless person, yet this disciple of his was deeply immersed in it and couldn't distinguish right from wrong. Feng Failing saw that it was Tanghua who ruined her plans again. The people who stopped the Star Moon Sect were also a group of people who were wearing white clothes and light gauze bamboo hats just like Tanghua. Each and every one of them had extraordinary strength. Even if she went up against them, she wouldn't have an easy time. She glared hatefully at Ling Yiling. Ling Yiling didn't even think and walked to the Devil Sect's side. He said coldly to Tanghua, this time, I'll have to trouble you to give an explanation. Why do you always ruin Ling's plans? This time, we saw it with our own eyes. The True Martial Sect's Luo Yu took advantage of Ling and didn't repent. The entire True Martial Sect is protecting him. Sect Master Wen came here only to seek justice for Ling Master, are you just going to let her mess around here? Mo Yuntian looked at the unfamiliar Ling Yiling. He was no longer the obedient child who endured the annihilation of his entire sect and worked hard to cultivate. He glanced at Tanghua and said coldly, from today onwards, you are no longer the Devil Sect's young sect master. Ling Yiling was stunned. Chapter 557. Master, Master. Ling Yiling didn't expect that Mo Yuntian would strip him of his identity as the Devil Sect's young sect master. And our master and disciple relationship ends at this moment. You can return to the Devil Sect when you understand. Mo Yuntian was a little tired. He really treated Ling Yiling as his own son. When Ling Yiling criticized him, his heart was a little cold. Because of Feng Failing, you're questioning me, your master. Have you never thought about why I'm dissatisfied with Feng Failing, and whether or not the things Feng Failing did were all justified? Ling Yiling was startled. In fact, many of the things Feng Failing did were very far-fetched. But this was the person he liked, and also the little girl who saved him. He only believed that she must have a painful past in her heart, which was why she did things that others thought were abnormal. He didn't care if Feng Failing was a good person or a bad person, as long as the person she liked was him. Tangua didn't care about what Leng Yiling was thinking. She only said to the true martial sect and the genius Luo Yu, "Join the devil's sect and I will guarantee your safety." True martial sect! Luo Yu! Luo Yu was a young man in his 20s. This time, when he was slandered by Feng Feiling for being frivolous, he thought of Pei Shui's matter. He instantly felt that it was not simple. He was luckier than Pei Shui. He was the true martial sect's young sect master, and the sect master was his father. His father had absolute power in the true martial sect. So when Feng Feiling proposed to hand him over, his father was the first to jump out and say that it was impossible. He also guaranteed that he would never do such a thing. But he didn't expect that Wen Ziqiu would bring the entire Star Moon sect to seek justice for Feng Feiling. The true martial sect would definitely be at a disadvantage against the Star Moon sect. He didn't expect that the Devil sect would come just as the Great Array was broken. Luo Yu calculated in his heart about Feng Feiling and this Devil sect Saintess Ant. Without waiting for the true martial sect's people to react, he shouted on the spot, "Luo Yu, am willing to lead the entire true martial sect to officially join the Devil sect from today onwards." He wasn't sure how Feng Feiling would deal with him. In the current situation, it was better to join the Devil sect for safety. Moreover, the Devil sect wasn't really a vicious devil cultivator. He had some admiration for his aunt, the Saintess. Hearing his son's words, the sect leader of the true martial sect didn't even think about it. This sect leader agrees to join the Devil sect. A good big sect like the true martial sect was forced by Feng Feiling to instantly agree to join the Devil sect. There was no one else like this. Feng Feiling was about to die from anger. "I won't let Luo Yu off." She raised her sword and was about to kill Luo Yu. This was the last one, and she almost missed her. Previously, she had not been able to kill Ji Qingshan. Now that it was impossible for her to kill Ji Qingshan, she had to kill Luo Yu today. Seeing that Feng Feiling was on the verge of going crazy, Tangua's group of genius disciples all landed in front of Luo Yu and blocked her attacks. In the end, each of them even gave her a blow. Feng Feiling couldn't withstand it. He was beaten until he was in a sorry state and retreated repeatedly. Master only said that they couldn't kill Feng Feiling, but didn't say that they couldn't teach him a lesson. Feng Feiling was beaten to the point that he couldn't fight back by a group of loathsome white-robed people. He was so angry in his heart that he wanted to die. He also knew that he wouldn't be able to get away with it today. He ferociously threw down a few ruthless words and left with Wen Ziqiu with his tail between his legs. When Leng Yiling turned around and left with Feng Feiling, Mo Yuntian called out to him. "Yiling, Feng Feiling is a dangerous person. I hope you can understand." Leng Yiling clenched his fist and coldly said, "Then what about Tangua?" Sect leader has always allowed her to abuse her power in the Devil sect. She isn't any better than Ling Er. At least Ling Er only has me in her heart. I won't let her go and will always stay by her side. Chapter 558. The news of the true martial sect being forced to join the Devil sect spread like wildfire in the cultivation world. Later, whenever Feng Feiling looked for trouble with a sect or someone, the Devil sect Saintess Ant would appear in time and speak to them with a smile. "Have you joined the Devil sect? Tell them you're safe." Every time she went out with a group of genius disciples, they would laugh in their hearts. Their master was too amusing. They secretly paid attention to the cold man who always followed behind their master. Some time ago, he resigned from his position as an elder of the Star Moon sect. He was listed as a traitor by the Star Moon sect and was also the target of elimination. However, he didn't seem to care. From the depths of his eyes, everyone could see the deep love he had for her. They all knew that the two used to be master and disciple. As for what kind of misunderstanding led to the current situation, they didn't know. More and more sects chose to join the devil sect. After joining the devil sect, they found that there were too many benefits. The devil sect wasn't like the real devil cultivators who ate cultivators and didn't talk reason. On the contrary, they once went to the devil sect to report their sect situation. When they walked into the devil sect, it was like a paradise on earth. They were really envious. Feng Feiling became more and more irritable. Seeing that he couldn't get anything good from the righteous sects, he went to the devil cultivators' territory to find trouble. This time, Tangwa didn't appear again and didn't ruin the other party's matter. As the righteous sects joined the devil sect, the super sects, Purple Cloud's Pill Heart sect and Scarlet Heaven's True Monarch's Wuhua sect, also joined the devil sect one after another. Countless people didn't understand why these two super sects also joined the devil sect. Until one day, they saw Scarlet Heaven's True Monarch, Purple Cloud's Saintess Ant, and Mo Yuntian sitting in a tea house with a smile on their faces. Purple Cloud's True Monarch and Scarlet Heaven's Saintess also called each other sister. Everyone suddenly understood. When they heard Mo Yuntian also call Tangwa sister, all the cultivators seemed to have understood a big matter. The disciples of Wuhua sect and Pill Heart sect also called Tangwa Saintess Ant. Later, these two sects publicly announced that Tangwa was not only the Saintess Ant of the devil sect, but also the Saintess Ant of their sect. Since then, the remaining small sects all chose to join the devil sect. It wasn't that they wanted to join so quickly, but Feng Feiling seemed to have already gone crazy. Those who heard the news also felt that something was wrong. Feng Feiling led the Star Moon sect's people and wantonly slaughtered in the devil cultivators' territory. Wen Ziqiu also didn't know why, but it was as if he had been bewitched by Feng Feiling, obeying his every order. From Leng Yiling's point of view, those devil cultivators deserved to be killed. He didn't stop Feng Feiling, as long as she was happy. Every time Mo Yuntian heard such news, his expression would become somewhat sad. Brother Mo is still feeling sad for Leng Yiling. Mo Yuntian sighed. In any case, he was raised from a young age. Is there really something about this reincarnated person that Yiling is so fascinated by? Tangwa lowered her head and took a sip of tea. Of course, she knew what the crux of the problem was, but she would not tell Leng Yiling the truth. She had only promised Mo Yuntian that she would spare Leng Yiling's life. Leng Yiling could not bear the pain that he deserved. My disciples are about to undergo their tribulation. So fast. Mo Yuntian was shocked. It hadn't even been 10 days. They have good talent. There's no other way. Their cultivation is just too fast. Tangwa immodestly replied, causing Bai Wuqing, who was standing at the side, to laugh. He also understood that it was good for him to look at her like this. I have already chosen the location. I will bring them out in a few days. Xiaogua, why aren't you undergoing your tribulation? Bai Wuqing asked. According to Xiaogua's cultivation, she should be able to undergo her tribulation. However, she didn't attract any lightning tribulation, causing the two of them to feel strange. Tangwa smiled faintly. I don't plan on undergoing my tribulation. Her ascension meant that she would have to enter the next world. It was the same whether she could fly or not. She would still have to be struck by lightning. She didn't want that. Chapter 559. Bai Wuqing was stunned when he heard Tangwa say that she did not want to undergo the tribulation. On the other hand, Mo Yuntian's reaction was not as big. He knew from the start that Tangwa would leave this world sooner or later. She would not leave in the form of ascension, but to another world. Unlike his previous guesses, he also knew that Tangwa would leave in the form of a spirit, living in another body. Bai Wuqing's heart tightened, and he could not help but ask, why? I don't want to undergo the tribulation. Tang Guo lowered her head and laughed. I don't want to be struck by lightning. Mo Yuntian almost laughed out loud. Was this girl trying to trick Bai Wuqing? Ever since Tang Guo joined the group, everyone in the group knew that she was a very vengeful person. She might be able to tolerate Bai Wuqing staying by her side, but even if he followed her everywhere, she would not mind. It was impossible for anything to happen between her and Bai Wuqing. When Bai Wuqing heard Tang Guo say that she did not want to be struck by lightning, he was stunned for a while before he regained his senses. A smile appeared on his cold face. Then I won't undergo the tribulation. If she did not undergo the tribulation, he would not undergo it either. Wherever she was, he would be there. Tang Guo saw through Bai Wuqing's thoughts, and her lips curled up slightly. She lowered her head and sipped her tea. She communicated with the system. He thinks that he can still be saved. It won't work. Although his Madam Host was someone who was extremely lacking in love, and cherished every bit of pure love, her eyes could not tolerate betrayal or any form of betrayal. Extreme. Sentimental. Heartless. It was all her fault. Bai Wuqing, what a sin. In this life, he had already been sentenced to death by Madam Host. If she could meet him again in the next life, she hoped that he could turn over a new leaf. Actually, he still thought highly of this mysterious transmigrator. There were not many people who could move his Madam Host in certain worlds. Compared to his Madam Host's serious face, he hoped that she could be happier. He had once asked his Madam Host why she valued sentiments so much. Even if she had been deceived countless times, she still believed that there was pure love, kinship, and friendship in this world. The host only said one thing: in the long passage of time, no matter how strong a person's heart is, it is possible for them to experience all kinds of stories and get lost. Only by experiencing a fresh relationship could he keep his mind calm and his heart warmed by these feelings. He would not become a cold and numb walking corpse. Even though she had been constantly traveling through time and space, she had never accepted her fate. She needed to remain calm and not lose any of her human characteristics. Therefore, she was able to integrate into every single body of the original owner. At the same time, because she had enough experience in transmigration, she could control their feelings at any time. But without exception, she could not tolerate sand in her eyes. If there was really such a person who could move her and treat her purely, she wouldn't mind giving her all to like him in that world. Clearly, Bai Wuqing had made a mistake from the very beginning, and it was a mistake he had committed against her original self. Naturally, she did not intend to have anything to do with him. Bai Wuqing felt a little uneasy in his heart. That person was clearly sitting right in front of him, but why couldn't he catch her? He was clearly by her side every day, but why did he feel that she could disappear at any time? I'll bring them to the tribulation tomorrow. Tang Guo put down her teacup. There are some things that I want to settle as soon as possible. She had been in this world for more than 10 years. Chapter 560. Tang Guo brought all the genius disciples, including Luo Qin, Ji Qingshan, Pei Shui, and some other geniuses who were not accepted as disciples by her but had already joined the Devil's sect, to a barren land. When everyone heard that she wanted them to undergo the tribulation as a group, they were all shocked and somewhat afraid. It was not that they were afraid of undergoing the tribulation, but they were afraid of undergoing the tribulation as a group. There were more than 50 of them here. Once the lightning tribulation came, it would be terrible. Choose a place that you think is more comfortable and stand there. Wen Yi could not help but ask, Master, do you want us to make an elegant posture to face the lightning tribulation? She wanted to give them an elegant way to die. Tang Guo was amused. Stop talking nonsense. Hurry up and stand there. This kind of opportunity is rare. Maybe you can only experience it once in your life. Everyone looked at the smiling woman and shook their heads helplessly. Even if this request was unreasonable, even if it was very dangerous for them, they were willing to do as she said. They felt very satisfied as long as she smiled. This was their master who brought them back when they were at their darkest. It could be said that their lives were given to them by her. She never asked for anything in return. She even gave them a cultivation environment and resources. She only told them to cultivate hard and pass the tribulation as soon as possible so that Feng Failing would die of anger. This strange request was unique in the cultivation world. It was not a request at all. It was just a matter of convenience. Everyone followed Tangua's request and chose a good position. In fact, they believed that Tangguo would definitely not watch them die. She was very capable, but they had never figured out how powerful she was. Until this time, they saw Tangguo take out many small sticks and give each of them one. When the lightning tribulation came, they could hold the small sharp sticks above their heads. Everyone was speechless. Even Bai Wuqing, who was standing far away, did not understand. Mo Yuntian was curious and also came. Purple Cloud Sage and Qi Shao Perfected Monarch naturally would not miss the group tribulation. Facing all the people who were undergoing the tribulation, they all held a sharp stick like idiots. It was a bit strange no matter how one looked at it. "Master, what's this?" Gu Qin was talkative. She was usually close to Tanguo. "Aren't we a little strange?" The system host was really something else. He had really developed a lightning rod. This lightning rod wasn't simple. It was used to avoid heavenly tribulation. She didn't know if the heavenly Tao of this world knew that she was playing like this. She didn't know if it would be broken or angry. "Alright, you're about to undergo your tribulation. Release your cultivation base. It's starting." Tangguo looked at them puzzledly fiddling with the lightning rods and explained, "This is called a lightning rod. It's for you to avoid the heavenly tribulation. It can block 90% of the heavenly tribulation. You can go through the remaining 10% yourselves." Lightning rod. These 3 words flashed through everyone's minds. Suddenly, the way they looked at this ordinary stick changed. It was good stuff to avoid the heavenly tribulation. Master actually had such a thing. Mo Yuntian, Purple Cloud Enlightened Master, and Scarlet Firmament Perfected Cultivator couldn't help but share the scene with the others in the group, saying that their campus belle had used a lightning rod to help her disciple transcend the tribulation. The little friends in the group were all stunned. After Wen Yi and the others released their cultivation base, a black tribulation cloud indeed gathered above them. It covered the sky and the ground fell into darkness. It seemed like it was coming menacingly. If they weren't prepared for such a fierce lightning tribulation, all of them would probably be blasted to pieces. There were a total of 9 lightning bolts. However, because they were undergoing the tribulation as a group, the power of each lightning bolt was multiplied by the number of people. The moment they saw the lightning tribulation descending, they subconsciously activated their defense. At the same time, they raised the lightning rods high up. If they died, then so be it. After all, Master wanted them to do this. What if they succeeded? Chapter 561. The overbearing lightning tribulation descended, but it was not as terrifying as they imagined. They could feel that the arm holding the lightning rod was a little numb. At the same time, a portion of the lightning tribulation landed on their bodies. However, they had already activated their defenses. Their bodies and heads were protected by Dharma treasures. This bit of power did not affect them at all. Perhaps the heavenly Tao knew the situation here, so the following lightning tribulation became more and more ferocious. However, they realized that with this lightning rod, the heavenly tribulation could not do anything to them. After 9 bolts of lightning tribulation, the tribulation cloud unwillingly dispersed. When everyone was baptized by the lightning tribulation, they stared at the lightning rod with a dumbfounded expression. This was a success. They had yet to experience the legendary danger and pain of tribulation transcendence. Tangua stared at the sky. Just now, she felt a gaze land on her. The other party stared at her with a sharp aura, but for some reason, he quickly retracted his gaze, as if he saw something terrifying. She touched her face. Was it because of her, or was there something about her that made the other party afraid? She was very familiar with that aura. It was the aura of the heavenly Tao. It was this world's heavenly Tao that was afraid of her. Tongzi, do I have some sort of background? Or am I not a simple person to begin with? Host, did you just realize it? I have long suspected that you have a great background. Tangua deeply agreed. That's true. I have destroyed so many worlds without any problems. It might really be related to me, but this is not important. Knowing that even the heavenly Tao was afraid of her, she could play however she wanted. She had to slowly pay back the suffering she had suffered during the period of confusion. You succeeded just like that. Mo Yuntian and the other 2 could not help but ridicule. How could it be so fast? The 3 of them looked at each other and could not help but look at Tangua. Sister, do you still have that lightning rod? The 3 of them had already passed tribulation transcendence, but this lightning rod was a bit rare and they wanted to play with one. Tangua was very generous and grabbed a bunch for them. The 3 of their mouths twitched fiercely as if it was free. Alright, since you have passed the lightning tribulation, prepare to ascend. When Foam Failing is going through tribulation transcendence, I will inform you. If there's anything you want to tell the people you care about, just tell them as soon as possible. When the time comes, after you've angered Foam Failing, you can all ascend together. Wen Yi and the others looked at each other. Gu Qin was the most talkative and outspoken. Master, what about you? When are you going to transcend the tribulation? When are you going to ascend? This was what they had always wanted to ask. Tangua's cultivation level was high enough to pass the tribulation, but she just didn't do it. This gave them a bad premonition. They felt that they would never see her again after this ascension. Tangua could feel the most sincere feelings from these people, and she couldn't help but smile. I don't plan on transcending the tribulation. When everyone heard this, they turned pale with fright. However, when they saw that she didn't seem to care, they knew that they couldn't persuade her. No one could change her decision. Master, we will always remember you. Even if they did not meet again, they would never forget her. If fate wills it, we'll meet again. Tangua remembered that she would travel through countless worlds. Perhaps she would meet an old friend one day. When the disciples heard this, they sighed in relief. Master's words didn't sound like she was planning to die of old age in the cultivation world. 3 years later, Foam Failing became a devil and became like a devil cultivator, eating cultivators to increase his strength. Star Moon sect also fell from a righteous sect to a devil cultivator sect. Foam Failing led the entire sect to become a devil. Today was the day of Foam Failing's tribulation transcendence. Chapter 562. During Foam Failing's tribulation, the happiest people were none other than those devil cultivators who had been tormented miserably by her. They couldn't wait for Foam Failing to be struck to death by the heavenly tribulation. Even if he didn't die, he should ascend quickly so that she wouldn't stay behind to torment them. Now, they were truly envious of the righteous cultivators who were protected by the devil's sect. They also wanted to enter the devil's sect. At first, they thought that since they were all devil cultivators, they couldn't just watch them get bullied by Foam Failing, right? In the end, the words of the Devil's Sect Saintess shattered their thoughts. The Devil's Sect would not protect devil cultivators, especially devil cultivators who fed on cultivators to cultivate. According to others, the original words that the Saintess had said to them were, "Although our Devil's Sect is also a place for devil cultivators, our three views are relatively righteous and we don't eat our own kind." They didn't know what their three views were, but if demonic cultivators didn't eat cultivators, what else could they eat? Cultivators cultivated the fastest. But Aunt Saintess had said that the Devil's Sect would not protect them, so they did not dare to go. Feng Feiling, on the other hand, was somewhat excited. After she transcended the tribulation, she would still not be the master of this world. Tang Gua is the saintess of the Devil's doctrine. So what? Aunt has long been taken away by her. Her spiritual root has been destroyed. How can it be comparable to her? For so many years, he hadn't heard of any sign of Tang Gua's tribulation. Maybe her cultivation hadn't improved at all. Once she was done with her tribulation, it would be a piece of cake for her to kill him. Ling Yiling looked at the gathering lightning tribulation and felt a lingering fear in his heart. He hurriedly shouted, "Ling, are you okay? Brother Yiling, don't worry. I'll be fine." The corner of Feng Feiling's mouth held a smile. She was 90% certain that she would pass the tribulation. Even if this lightning tribulation looked particularly terrifying, it was nothing to her. She narrowed her eyes and glanced at Ling Yiling's anxious look. She sneered in her heart. Look, this was a man with no principles at all. He clearly knew that she had done a lot of bad things, but just because she had saved his life, he blindly stood by her side. She had long seen through the nature of these men. Just like in his previous life, when he found out that the young lady who brought him out was Tang Gua, he followed her closely to protect her. When he found out that the person Tang Gua liked was Bai Wuqing, he decided to take a step back and stop thinking about her. Instead, he helped the two of them. After knowing that she, Feng Feiling, wanted to harm Tang Gua, she wasted her spiritual root without hesitation. She would never forget the pain of having her spirit root destroyed. She lifted her head and looked at the lightning tribulation that was brewing. Then, she looked at Ling Yiling and had an idea. Why don't we use Ling Yiling's corpse to celebrate her success in passing the tribulation? Over the years, she had obtained quite a lot of opportunities. Although the heavens were always targeting her, they did not take care of everything. Occasionally, they would leak out, but she had already gained a lot. Therefore, guiding the tribulation cloud to the top of Ling Yiling's head was a very easy task. When Tang Gua, who was hiding in the dark, saw this, she wasn't surprised. She just didn't expect that Feng Feiling would plan to bring this matter forward. She wants to. When Mo Yuntian saw this, his expression turned ugly. She wants to guide the lightning tribulation to the top of Ling Yiling's head. Even so, the two of them should be able to pass the lightning tribulation. Ziyun Dao Master rubbed his chin. He didn't quite understand and his eyes narrowed. Could it be that she has another situation? Just watch. When Ling Yiling can't hold on, Brother Mo, you can just throw a lightning rod on top of his head. Mo Yuntian nodded. Even if he didn't want this disciple anymore, he still didn't want to see him die tragically under the heavenly tribulation. Chapter 563. Mo Yuntian just didn't understand why Yiling was so devoted to Feng Feiling, but that vicious woman still wanted to kill him. Ling Yiling was also stunned for a moment when he saw the tribulation cloud that suddenly appeared above his head. He could indeed pass the tribulation, but he always wanted to wait until Feng Feiling passed the tribulation. Brother Yiling, since the lightning tribulation has already found you, why don't we pass the tribulation together? Without waiting for Ling Yiling to think more, he saw Feng Feiling reveal a bright smile at him, which made him forget that something was wrong. He simply jumped to Feng Feiling's side, and the two tribulation clouds immediately merged together. Feng Feiling took the initiative to hold Leng Yiling's hand and smiled at him. "Brother Yiling, let's pass the tribulation together and ascend together. Didn't you always want to be with me forever? After we pass the tribulation, let's leave this place together. I won't care about anything in the future, and will only love you wholeheartedly, okay?" It had to be said that Feng Feiling's display of affection moved Leng Yiling. Even if his temperament was somewhat cold, he was still moved by Feng Feiling. Moreover, this was the little girl he had always liked. Even if she became unrecognizable, he still liked her. He liked her so much that he couldn't extricate himself. He didn't even mind seeing her do many things that she shouldn't have done. He once thought that if she turned into a demon, he would turn into a demon. If she went to hell, he would go to prison. The way the two looked at each other affectionately was seen by the devil sect in the dark. Especially Mo Yuntian, his expression was a bit indescribable. This Feng Feiling used these few sweet words to coax his disciple. Tangua's mouth held a smile as she looked at the two loving people with a smile that wasn't a smile. Thinking about what would happen next, her mood was somewhat wonderful. The system looked at the rising energy and was also very happy. "Okay." Leng Yiling excitedly pulled Feng Feiling's hand and hugged her in his embrace. He said with a face full of affection, "I'll protect Ling later. Let's go together. I also want to protect Brother Yiling." Looking at such a pure smile, Leng Yiling couldn't help but recall the red-clothed little girl he saw when he opened his eyes. At that time, she also asked him if he was okay. Until now, he still remembered that smile, which really smiled into the bottom of his heart. Rumble, the tribulation clouds were almost done brewing. The two of them stopped kissing and held each other's hands as they looked at the terrifying tribulation clouds above their heads. When the first lightning tribulation descended, Leng Yiling didn't even think as he protected Feng Feiling in his arms. When the first lightning tribulation struck, Leng Yiling withstood it with ease. Looking at the sweet face of the woman in his arms, who was smiling brightly at him, he felt satisfied. "Brother Yiling, you are such a nice person." Leng Yiling had already decided that he would bear the brunt of today's lightning tribulation. Very quickly, the second lightning tribulation descended. Leng Yiling was struck until he groaned. Seeing this, Feng Feiling dispersed the remaining lightning tribulation and looked at Leng Yiling nervously. "Big Brother Yiling, I can do it. I'm not weak either." "I know, but I just want to protect Ling." Tangua had a smile on her face as she seriously watched the two of them being lovey-dovey under the lightning tribulation. Bai Wuqing noticed the faint smile on her face and added, "I can do that too." Tangua's genius disciples were a bit speechless. "Young Master Bai, you better not confess blindly. Can't you see that Master is mocking the other party? I have a lightning rod." Tangua's words were shocking. She glanced at Bai Wuqing. "It's better than yours." Bai Wuqing touched his nose. "That's true." The genius disciples laughed heartily. Chapter 564. During the fifth lightning tribulation, Leng Yiling was struck into a very sorry state. His entire body was struck into a large pit. Feng Feiling, who was protected in his arms, also fell into the pit. However, Leng Yiling had always been protecting her, so she didn't suffer much injuries. The two climbed up from the pit. This time, Feng Feiling wouldn't let Leng Yiling resist the lightning tribulation alone. After a long time, Leng Yiling finally agreed. However, during the sixth and seventh lightning tribulation, he still endured most of the lightning tribulation. His entire body was somewhat charred. He just wanted to endure a little more, so that the last two most powerful lightning tribulation wouldn't hurt his Ling. "Brother Leng Yiling, you're so good to me." Feng Feiling was encircled in Leng Yiling's arms. She looked at Lang Yiling emotionally. She could already feel that Lang Yiling's condition was very bad. He endured the majority of the lightning tribulation for two people. If his mind was in a mess, he would definitely die under the lightning tribulation. Feng Feiling's eyes narrowed as he laid in Lang Yiling's embrace. A smile hung on the corner of his mouth, and his voice changed a little. Big brother Yiling, you're so good to Ling Er. Tell me, how should Ling Er repay you? As long as Ling Er likes me, I don't ask for anything else. Ling Er naturally likes brother Yiling. I like you the most. Feng Feiling raised her head. Her smile was very strange. Even Lang Yiling felt that something was wrong. However, he didn't believe that Feng Feiling would do anything to him at this time. Feng Feiling tiptoed and leaned close to Lang Yiling's ear. At the same time, she used her divine sense to pay attention to the eighth lightning tribulation that was about to fall. Seeing that the lightning tribulation was about to fall, she said, I want to tell brother Yiling a secret. I've wanted to tell you this secret for a long time. Today is the day of our tribulation. If I tell brother Yiling at this time, you'll definitely never forget it. You'll die with everlasting regret. What secret? Lang Yiling quickly ignored the discomfort in his heart and asked while preparing to deal with the lightning tribulation above. Feng Feiling's smile became more and more beautiful. She still leaned close to Lang Yiling's ear. Actually, brother Yiling, the person who brought you to the cave from the Lang residence wasn't me, Ling He. You're joking. Ling He, stop joking around. Feng Feiling wrapped his arms around Lang Yiling's waist. Looking at his incredulous expression, he felt extremely refreshed and continued, you know that person too. Her name is Tanghua. Lang Yiling's eyes widened. Impossible. Feng Feiling lowered his head and smiled, Tanghua didn't steal the sex treasure. I used a secret technique to temporarily control her mind. For this reason, I even paid the price of not being able to make any progress in my cultivation for 3 years. And she has never harmed me. Everything was part of my plan. I wanted you to destroy her spirit root with your own hands. As for the reason behind all this, Lang Yiling, let's talk about it after you've passed the last 2 lightning tribulations. After saying that, Feng Feiling pushed Lang Yiling away. In an instant, the lightning tribulation above the tribulation cloud struck Lang Yiling's body with a boom. Lang Yiling stood in the same place, unable to react at all. His mind was in a mess, filled with what Feng Feiling had just said. He really wanted to ask if it was true. He really wanted to say that she must be deceiving him. But Feng Feiling stood far away. He was already submerged by the lightning tribulation and didn't have the chance to ask. Feng Feiling looked at Lang Yiling, who was submerged by the lightning tribulation, and laughed crazily. Her mood was extremely refreshed. Soon, she would be able to see Lang Yiling, who had turned into charcoal. She wondered if he was still thinking when he died. How could his Ling deceive him? How ridiculous. Chapter 565. Feng Feiling's expression was indifferent. If Lang Yiling was struck into dregs by the heavenly tribulation, she wouldn't be sad at all. She would only be happy. She stared at Lang Yiling's position and watched as the 8th lightning tribulation gradually dissipated. She originally thought that after the lightning tribulation dissipated, Lang Yiling's charred corpse would be left behind. After all, Lang Yiling's mind was already in chaos. The 8th lightning tribulation was only second to the strength of the last lightning tribulation. Lang Yiling had already endured so much before, so he couldn't bear it anymore. However, the moment the lightning tribulation dissipated, she still saw Lang Yiling sitting on the ground in a daze. His eyes were filled with confusion and disbelief. How is this possible? Feng Feiling subconsciously shouted, her voice was a bit sharp. The words she said must have impacted Lang Yiling. Logically speaking, he shouldn't be able to bear it at all. Why? Why was Lang Yiling still sitting there unscathed? Lang Yiling, who was in a daze, didn't expect that he wasn't struck to death by the lightning tribulation and seemed to have survived. He lowered his head and looked at himself, recalling the experience just now. He was indeed drowned by the lightning tribulation, but it seemed that something helped him to bear most of the lightning tribulation and didn't hurt him at all. How can you be fine? Feng Feiling couldn't remain calm at all and blurted out subconsciously. She had already shed all pretense of cordiality with Lang Yiling, so there was no need to continue pretending. Moreover, there was still one more lightning tribulation. She didn't believe that Lang Yiling could survive the last one. Lang Yiling came back to his senses, and his expression was very complicated. He recalled what Feng Feiling said to him just now. He didn't want to believe it. But seeing Feng Feiling's appearance and recalling what she had done before, he had no choice but to believe it. Just now, Feng Feiling really wanted him to die. In her eyes, he didn't see any friendship at all. Other than hatred, there was only hatred. He didn't understand. He didn't understand. Even if she really wasn't the person who saved him, he treated her wholeheartedly. Could it be that she didn't feel anything at all and only wanted to kill him? Ling, you were joking with me before, right? Feng Feiling sneered, who's joking with you? I can't wait for you to be struck to death by the lightning tribulation. Feng Feiling was completely merciless and stared at the sky. It's a pity that the 8th lightning tribulation didn't kill you. Lang Yiling finally admitted that Feng Feiling really didn't like him. He suddenly remembered that the person who saved him wasn't Feng Feiling, but Tangua. His heart couldn't help but sink. The person who saved me back then. It's her. There's no need to ask. You were thrown out by the Ling family. She was the one who picked you up. She put you in a cave and left. As for why you saw me when you woke up, I did it on purpose. I wanted you to think that I was your savior. Lang Yiling asked blankly, why? You'll know when you die. Her cold and emotionless words had indeed hurt Lang Yiling. Feng Feiling looked at the other party's expression and mocked, don't tell me that even if you only know the truth, you still quite like me. No. Lang Yiling quickly shook his head. No, how could the truth be like this? How could Ling be like this? She shouldn't be like this. And Tangua, why was she the one who saved him? If that was really the case, then everything he had done in the past was to harm the person who had saved him with his own hands. You're thinking so much. Why don't you prepare for the last lightning tribulation? Looking at the chaotic Lang Yiling, Feng Feiling said in a good mood. However, as soon as she finished speaking, a large group of people dressed in white appeared around her, wearing thin veils and bamboo hats, ruining her good mood. She looked straight at the woman at the front. You heard it. Chapter 566. I heard it. Tangguo replied. She didn't think that Feng Feiling would be so impatient. Others hadn't even forced her, but she had already confessed everything. Did she really think that everything would be fine after passing the tribulation? Host, wasn't it you who forced her to be so impatient? Now, she was suspecting that the heavens were targeting her. Otherwise, it wouldn't be smooth for her to do anything. Ever since she went to the demonic cultivator's territory to behave atrociously, there weren't any more problems, so she simply became demonic. No matter how firm a person's temperament was, once they became demonic, their temperament would change. Their temper would be more impulsive and manic than before. Back then, you were the one who took me away from the Ling clan. Seeing Tangguo appear, Lang Yiling couldn't wait to ask. That pleading look seemed to be telling her that this must be fake, right? Mo Yuntian's expression was a bit complicated. No wonder the campus belle didn't like this guy. It turned out that there was such a relationship. This foolish disciple of his had recognized the wrong person from the start, creating an ill-fated relationship with Feng Feiling. It wasn't you, right? Ling Yiling didn't wait for Tang Guo to reply and said anxiously. Tang Guo lightly curled her lips. I don't remember. Ling Yiling's heart sank, and he didn't dare to look at her eyes. Actually, Feng Feiling's performance could already prove that the other party wasn't lying. It was just that he didn't want to believe that he recognized the wrong person. Not only did he recognize the wrong person, but he also hurt the person who really saved him. For a person who wanted to harm them, he escorted them all the way and didn't hesitate to do something that went against his principles. For Feng Feiling, he left the demonic sect, left the master who treated him the best, personally crippled the spirit root of his savior, and did who knows how many crazy things for Feng Feiling. If anyone dared to bully Feng Feiling, he would cripple them if it was light, and take their life if it was heavy. He looked at the tribulation clouds in the sky in a daze. At this moment, he had a heart that didn't want to resist. If he was really wrong, then let the tribulation lightning strike him to death. Let his life be the atonement. Tang Guo saw through his thoughts. It wasn't strange at all. Ling Yiling was a very conceited person. He didn't want to admit his mistakes, so he chose to escape. Feng Feiling didn't care about that anymore. Right now, she was going to pass the tribulation. After she passed the tribulation, everyone would know what she did. So what? If she couldn't stay here any longer, she would go to the celestial world. There would be a place for her. She didn't believe that Tang Guo would dare to come in and stop her from transcending the tribulation. If she attracted a large number of lightning tribulations, everyone would die. And judging from Ling Yiling's appearance, he probably wouldn't make it. Ling Yiling didn't miss the joy in Feng Feiling's eyes. His heart was completely cold, and he was even more unwilling to resist the lightning tribulation. The moment the lightning tribulation was about to descend, Tang Guo's gaze turned towards Wen Yi and the others. Her pleasant voice rang out, Feng Feiling, in order to celebrate your tribulation today, I spent more than 10 years preparing a big gift for you. Seeing that the last lightning tribulation was about to descend, Tang Guo's voice almost made Feng Feiling's mouth crooked. She said disdainfully, don't try to influence my mind. I won't fall for it. I know that you're a person with a firm temperament. As someone who has been reborn, you naturally won't be easily influenced, right? The word reborn had already caused Feng Feiling's expression to change greatly. He stared at Tang Guo in disbelief. You. Feng Feiling's heart was in chaos, but she felt the pressure coming from above. She quickly gathered her thoughts. She couldn't be fooled. She definitely couldn't be fooled. You want to mess with my mind? Impossible. Tang Guo lowered her head and smiled gently, I already said that you're a person with a firm temperament. You won't be swayed so easily. Before transcending the tribulation, take a look at the gift I've prepared for you. Chapter 567. Feng Feiling told herself over and over again that Tang Guo was here to effect her tribulation. She absolutely couldn't be fooled. She barely suppressed her beating heart and prepared to deal with the tribulation lightning. Suddenly, a gentle voice sounded in her ears, causing her expression to change greatly. Feng Feiling, look at who I am. Feng Feiling subconsciously looked towards the source of the voice. Among the group of white-clothed people, there was a graceful figure. She took off her bamboo hat, and a devastatingly beautiful face appeared in front of Feng Feiling's eyes. Feng Feiling was so shocked that she took a few steps back. You, how are you still alive? Feng Feiling couldn't believe it. She personally saw Pei Shui's soul being scattered by the devil cultivators. How could she still be standing there perfectly fine? Pei Shui had a faint smile on her face. Are you surprised that I'm still alive? You slandered me for having thoughts about Leng Yiling and even damaged my reputation. You colluded with the devil cultivators to set me up for eternal damnation. I, Pei Shui, have never done anything to let you down. Feng Feiling, why are you treating me like this? That's because you deserve it. Feng Feiling completely forgot about the current situation and subconsciously roared, you deserve it, you deserve it. Back then, when she was being toyed with by the devil cultivators, Pei Shui and Ji Qingshan next door were still loving each other all day long. They didn't even think of saving a pitiful little girl like her. Therefore, Pei Shui deserved it. Feng Feiling, take a look at who I am. Gu Qin took off her bamboo hat, revealing her charming face in front of everyone. Seeing Feng Feiling's puzzled expression, she kindly explained, I'm called Gu Qin, a 5-element spiritual root. Although she didn't know why her master wanted her to introduce herself like this, when she saw Feng Feiling's expression change, she understood that this was very important to Feng Feiling. How is this possible? Feng Feiling's heart was in a mess, and she couldn't calm down. Feng Feiling, my name is Wen Yi. Feng Feiling, my name is Feng Feiling. The familiar names of geniuses rang in her ears. Feng Feiling seemed to have fallen into a spell. She painfully covered her head. She worked so hard for so long to cut off the opportunities of these geniuses, not giving them the chance to grow. There were even some people who had been secretly plotted against by her and lost their cultivation. They were crippled and had their arms and legs broken. Why were these people still standing in front of her? Suddenly, she thought of someone. She stared at Tang Guo's position and said with a ferocious expression, it's you. It's me. You too. Feng Feiling couldn't help but admit that for Tang Guo to know his identity as a reincarnator, it was very likely that she was also a reincarnator. She suddenly felt that the heavens were really unfair. It was one thing for her to be reborn, but why did they have to let her enemy be reborn as well? Even after being reborn, she still couldn't compare to her enemy. It turned out that she was really being targeted by the heavens. Tang Guo shook her head gently. I'm not. She was indeed not a reincarnated being. Obviously, Feng Feiling didn't believe it. Rumble the lightning tribulation had already successfully condensed and was rumbling above his head. Feng Feiling had already calmed down. No matter what, she could not die under the heavenly tribulation. I won't let you have your way. Her expression was solemn as she prepared to deal with the last lightning tribulation. The moment the 9th lightning tribulation submerged Feng Feiling and Leng Yiling, Tang Guo's voice was clearly transmitted to Feng Feiling's ears. It wasn't for her, but for Wen Yi and the others. Alright, you guys can begin to ascend. In an instant, Feng Feiling's eyes widened as she looked at the group of people in white releasing their cultivation. Even she was affected by their powerful aura. Looking at their smiles as they ascended, she was so angry that she spat out a mouthful of blood. Chapter 568. Bai Wuqing, I'll lend it to you. Bai Wuqing suddenly heard Tang Guo's words and was stunned for a moment. Then, he became ecstatic and quickly walked out from the crowd, revealing his true face. He came to her side with a gaze full of affection. Xiao Guo, how do you want to use it? Tang Guo looked at Bai Wuqing with a smile. You're so happy to be used by someone. Because this person is Xiao Guo. Bai Wuqing answered straightforwardly. From the moment he understood, he was firm in his thoughts. Even if there was no result, he was willing to persevere. Tang Guo smiled lightly, you're quite good with words. Feng Feiling had been paying attention to the existence of these two people. Even when he was engulfed by the lightning tribulation and his body was in intense pain from the lightning tribulation, it was not as dazzling as the scene in front of him. I just want to ask you a few questions. Xiao Guo, feel free to ask. Tang Guo glanced at Feng Feiling's position and the corner of her mouth rose slightly. She did not have much experience in angering her opponent to death for the first time, but looking at Feng Feiling's situation, it should be considered a success. When did you start to have feelings for me? Was it before or after I left Star Moon Sect? Before. Feng Feiling spat out another mouthful of blood. It was impossible before. Didn't Bai Wuqing hate women who played tricks with him the most? Tang Guo smiled and brushed her messy hair behind her ear. Then I'll have to scheme against you. If I can be schemed against by Xiao Guo again, I'm willing to do it. PFFF. Feng Feiling spat out another mouthful of blood and looked unwillingly at the two who were chatting happily. She had schemed so much just to make Bai Wuqing hate Tang Guo. That high and mighty person actually went against his principles for Tang Guo and liked someone who was full of schemes. Then what was she? No matter what kind of person Xiao Guo is, I'll like him. Perhaps Bai Wuqing realized that this was his only chance to express his feelings. Even if Tang Guo had already made it clear to him that she was just borrowing him this time, he was still willing to do it. He was also very willing. He was not afraid of being used by her, but he was afraid that she would not use him. He was afraid that she would ignore him and use him. At least he was still useful to her. Feng Feiling looked at Bai Wuqing's affectionate appearance and seemed to recall his previous life. The other party had also protected Tang Guo with such affectionate feelings. Looking at the group of ascended people around him, he could no longer calm down. She glanced at Leng Yiling, who was also engulfed by the lightning tribulation, and smiled. At least there was one person who would die with her. She gritted her teeth. If she could be reborn again, she would do it more decisively and not leave anyone a way out from the beginning. Unexpectedly, at this moment, Leng Yiling stood up. He looked at the lightning rod above his head and was a little stunned. Let's get through the lightning tribulation first. It was Mo Yintian's voice. Yiling, if you really want to die for Feng Feiling, I won't stop you. Leng Yiling looked at Feng Feiling's appearance and then looked at Mo Yintian's worried expression. In the end, he stood there and silently endured the remaining lightning tribulation, not caring about Feng Feiling. When Feng Feiling thought that she and Leng Yiling were going to be struck to death and her consciousness dissipated, Leng Yiling was actually still intact. She unwillingly dissipated from the world and let out an unwilling scream. Leng Yiling clearly heard Feng Feiling's last sentence. It was said to him, if I had known, I would have killed you in the cave. After the lightning tribulation dispersed, Leng Yiling's neck felt cold. Chapter 569. Feng Feiling was killed by the heavenly tribulation. Leng Yiling successfully passed the heavenly tribulation and returned to the Devil's Sect. He locked himself in his room and never came out. Other than the area of demonic cultivators, almost all the sects lived in peace under the rule of the Devil's Sect. Everything was developing in a good direction. Tang Gui's genius disciples all ascended together. Only those who saw the spectacular scene that day understood what it was like. But other than those who knew, no one knew that these geniuses ascended with only one purpose, to anger Feng Feiling to death. Feng Feiling was indeed angered to death by them. If they didn't appear, Feng Feiling probably wouldn't have been killed by the heavenly tribulation. After Feng Feiling's death, the Star Moon Sect was in turmoil. The sect master of the Star Moon Sect, Wen Ziqiu, died in a very strange way. After someone checked, they found that Wen Ziqiu had been controlled by someone. In other words, the orders he gave were most likely controlled by Feng Feiling. The Star Moon Sect declined without any surprise. Mo Yuntian didn't restore Leng Yiling's identity as the young sect master. Instead, he chose a good young man in the sect and supported him as the young sect master. He, Purple Cloud, and Scarlet Firmament had discussed it. After Tangguo left, they also planned to ascend to the immortal world. Big brothers, I plan to leave. The three of them ate the delicacies on the table. For the first time, they felt that the taste was somewhat tasteless. Later, they also asked Tangguo how the world would turn out if she didn't appear. After knowing the truth, they couldn't help but sigh. Especially Purple Cloud, he couldn't help but shake his head. That's really funny. Just because he didn't want to meddle in other people's business, he still has a grudge. He's crazy. Scarlet Firmament also couldn't stand Feng Feiling's temper. Pei Shui is still the most pitiful. Fortunately, she thought it through. The result is still not bad. Ji Qingshan is also quite good. When are you leaving? Mo Yuntian asked. Tangguo thought for a moment. In a few days. Sigh, I can't bear to. Ziyun Dao Master sighed. Alright, we can't keep you here. When you arrive at a new plane, remember to notify us in the group. Also, don't disappear for years or decades. Occasionally, you should pop up in the group so that we don't worry about you. Alright. Tangguo was quite happy to be able to make a few good friends, especially since everyone had a relatively long lifespan. True monarch Qi Shao hesitated for a moment before asking, what about Bai Wuqing? Everyone knew that Bai Wuqing was infatuated with their sister. But from the looks of it, Tangguo did not intend to have anything to do with Bai Wuqing. I will bid him farewell. The underlying meaning was that there was no chance. The few of them looked at each other and lit a candle for Bai Wuqing. For the next few days, Tangguo only ate and drank with the few of them. She took out the best dishes and wine to entertain them. The few of them ate happily, but in their hearts, they were reluctant to part with it. After this parting, he didn't know if they would have the chance to meet again in the future. Bai Wuqing seemed to have sensed something. He found a chance to be alone with Tangguo and stopped her. There were some other emotions on that cold face. Xiaoguo. Bai Wuqing came in front of her and seriously looked into her eyes, trying to find something in them. I feel that you're going to leave me. He wanted to tell her not to leave, but he realized that he didn't have the right to say that. You have a sixth sense too. Tangguo looked up with a smile. That feeling is quite accurate. Bai Wuqing couldn't help but grab her wrist. He looked a little anxious. Where are you going? Bring him along, he will be obedient. Chapter 570. I don't know where I'm going, so I can't bring you along. Bai Wuqing didn't believe her. She was the one who didn't want to bring him along. He was the one who made a mistake, but she still refused to forgive him. I know you still blame me. Tangguo shook her head. I don't blame you anymore. You've already paid the price. Once I leave this place, all our grudges will disappear. No. Xiaoguo, I'd rather you hate me. Tangguo was speechless. I've never hated you. Bai Wuqing was stunned. You're not even willing to hate me. Tangguo, this kind of one-track-minded old man is still single. She complained to the system. System, host, you're bullying him because he can't bring his memories with him. Who knows what he was originally? Maybe he's someone who wants to harm me. System, haha, Bai Wuqing saw that Tangguo really didn't care, and finally gave up. Then, before you leave, can I accompany you? Of course. Bai Wuqing heaved a sigh of relief. A smile that was as clear as water floated up onto his face. It was simple and pure, as if he had just obtained some sort of treasure. He consciously let go of Tangguo's wrist and stood beside her. Even if he couldn't accompany her for long, he wanted to be by her side when she was around. He didn't know how she left, but he had a bad feeling about it. For the next few days, wherever Tangguo was, Bai Wuqing would be there. The two of them didn't leave each other's side, and they were even closer than before. This made the disciples of the devil's sect think that a good thing was about to happen. Until one day, they didn't see the holy maiden Ant's figure anymore, nor did they see Bai Wuqing. Bai Wuqing felt it one morning. He stood at the door and waited for a long time, but he didn't see any familiar faces. Suddenly, he thought of something. Ignoring her displeasure, he pushed the door open, only to see a lifeless body. In that instant, he broke down. Since the day she came down from Star Moon Sect, this was the closest he had ever come to contact with her. He hugged her, cold body. He couldn't find her soul. He never thought that she would leave in such a state. He didn't know where she had gone or where her soul had returned to, but he really regretted it. Mo Yuntian and the other two had received a notification from Tang Guo the moment she was about to leave, so they weren't surprised. But when they came to the room and saw the cold man holding Tang Guo's cold body with tears in his eyes and a forbearing expression, they were somewhat moved. Did Bai Wuqing really like their sister? Unfortunately, the girl was such a stubborn person. If she couldn't tolerate it, she couldn't tolerate it. No matter how much he tried to make it up to her, it was useless. He didn't know if this character was good or bad. I've said it before. Wherever you go, I'll be there. Wherever you go, I'll follow. Xiao Guo. Before the three of them could even react, Bai Wuqing actually dissipated his cultivation base, taking the initiative to dissipate from the world. Seeing this, they were also stunned, and in the end, they sighed endlessly. As for Bai Wuqing, he finally regained consciousness. A helpless smile hung on his face. In this life, he was really unwilling to give up. Guo was really a heartless woman. Where's Tang Guo? Where is Aunt Saintess? Have you seen her? I want to find her. Where is she? Hearing the voices from outside, Bai Wuqing's eyes flashed with a cold light. Nobody could snatch away his Guo. Tang Guo, Xiao Guo, I remember now. I had a dream. I remember everything. I know the truth. I'm sorry, I'm here to apologize to you. In the future, we... Chapter 571. Ling Yiling pushed open the door, only to see two bodies hugging each other, slowly dissipating. This was the last of Bai Wuqing's power. A Guo was his, and no one else could touch her corpse. Ling Yiling quickly rushed forward, only to pounce on empty air. Xiao Guo, Ling Yiling frantically searched the air, trying to catch Tang Guo's aura, but there was nothing in front of him. He knelt on the ground in pain, staring blankly in front of him. Last night, I had two dreams, or rather, two different worlds. Mo Yuntian and the other two looked at each other, not interrupting Ling Yiling's speech. In fact, they vaguely guessed that the two dreams Ling Yiling had were really two worlds that had happened before. In the first dream, there was me, Xiao Guo, Bai Wuqing, and Feng Feiling. Ling Yiling had a smile on his face. Xiao Guo, and Bai Wuqing were together, and I was willing to let them be together. Feng Feiling framed Xiao Guo, and I personally destroyed his spirit root. In the second dream, there was also us. At this moment, a pained expression appeared on Ling Yiling's face, and the tears at the corner of his eyes fell uncontrollably. Just like the beginning, Xiao Guo's spirit root was destroyed by me. What was different from this life was that not long after she left the mountain, she was framed by Feng Feiling, and fell into the hands of demonic cultivators. She suffered countless tortures, and died, because of me. Ling Yiling could not hold back his tears anymore, and he rubbed his face hard. Bai Wuqing finally found out the truth, but Feng Feiling's power had already been established, and he was led into the nest of 1,000 devils to be tortured. I guess he was willing to be tortured, and I only found out the truth when I was undergoing my tribulation, and I was willing to die under the lightning tribulation. And Master. He raised his head and looked at Mo Yuntian, his eyes full of guilt. Mo Yuntian sighed. This was not a dream, it was real. If it wasn't for the girls' timely arrival, all of their fates would have been toyed with by Feng failing. After saying that, Ling Yiling looked at the place where Tang Gua had disappeared. He cried out in pain and shouted, "Little Gua must think that I'm stupid and doesn't want me anymore. Bai Wuqing made the same mistake as me. Why is she willing to let Bai Wuqing stay by her side?" Bai Wuqing changed very quickly. He soon realized his mistake. True monarch Scarlet Firmament couldn't help but say, "That guy is really thick-skinned." Ever since the girl went down the mountain, he has been following her without any principles. Why do you think she wants someone who will criticize her at any time by her side? If it wasn't for the end, you might not have known the truth. Purple Cloud tugged at Qi Shao Jin Monarch. Don't talk about it anymore. Look at him. He's already in tears. Let him calm down. Let's go then. Mo Yuntian didn't care about Ling Yiling anymore. His life was saved, but this person was also crippled. The school bell's move really consigned Ling Yiling to eternal damnation. The three of them walked far away, but they could still hear the sobbing sounds coming from the house. Not long after, they received the news that Ling Yiling had destroyed his own spirit root. From then on, the Devil's Sect had one more crippled person. It was said that he had a crazy smile on his face every day. Sometimes he would call Little Gua, and sometimes he would ask, "If I call you Aunt, will you come back? Saintess Aunt, Aunt, please come back. Tongzi, I feel a little uncomfortable. A little sore, a little painful." The system was playing dead. Sorry, Madam Host, it's still an underage system. It's not suitable to watch this kind of scene. Tang Gua opened her eyes and looked around. The house was made of mud, and there was an unpainted four-cornered wooden table, a box, and a wardrobe. She was covered with a large floral quilt, and there was a wedding cake on the window. This is the morning of our wedding. Host, have you forgotten? You came here last night. Tang Gua's face froze. This body was drunk last night, and then she came here. When she was teleported, she fell asleep and had a wonderful dream. In a daze, a familiar aura entered, and then... Chapter 572. After Tang Gua put on her clothes, she looked at her rustic clothes and confirmed the timeline. The system saw that Tang Gua had put on her clothes and came online. Host, congratulations. You got married as soon as you came online. Tang Gua, accept the plot. Sigh, okay. Tang Gua leaned on the folded quilt and closed her eyes. She calmly accepted the plot of this world. This world told the story of a reincarnated girl. She lived a miserable life and was reborn with regret. She wanted to hold on to what she had given up and live a good life. If that was the case on the surface, there was nothing wrong with this reincarnated girl. The original owner would not be a cannon fodder. Chen Ying was the reincarnated female lead in this world. The incident happened in Chen Ying's previous life. One of the educated youths in the family Tang village was called Yi Song. He was so handsome that all the girls in the village were starry-eyed when they saw him. Chen Ying was no exception. Although the other girls in the village liked Yi Song, they cared more about their reputation. Chen Ying was more daring than the others. At first, she slowly got close to Yi Song. Later, when she saw that Yi Song was unwilling, she decided to go all the way. Yi Song had no choice but to marry Chen Ying. Chen Ying thought that Yi Song would definitely spend the rest of his life with her. She did not expect that although Yi Song looked like a weak scholar, he was very stubborn. He insisted on being a fake couple with her for the rest of his life. Less than 2 years later, the college entrance examination resumed. Chen-ning saw that Yi-song was revising seriously. She was afraid that Yi-song would leave her alone. She wanted to take revenge on Yi-song for not taking her seriously. She tore Yi-song's revision materials again and again. She sabotaged Yi-song's college entrance exam countless times. In the end, Yi-song did not take the exam and Chen-ning achieved her goal. Later on, Chen-ning was like a resentful wife. She did not want to divorce Yi-song and did not want to let him go. She pestered Yi-song for the rest of her life. Before she died, she finally regretted it. When she was 28 years old, she bumped into her fiancé, Xie Shijun, who she had broken off her engagement with, on the street. He was already a regiment commander, and there was a beautiful and fashionable woman standing beside him. She was actually the daughter of the village head of family Tang village, the flower of the village. This was what Chen-ning regretted the most. If she hadn't reneged on the marriage, she would have been the one being addressed as Madam Regiment Commander in public. Before she died, she recalled this scene again, and regret filled her heart. When she opened her eyes again, she found that everything had returned to the beginning. She did not marry Yi-song, nor did she break the engagement with the Xie family. She decided that she would live a good life with Xie Shijun in this life. She would not be entangled with Yi-song anymore. If this was the end of the story, it was not bad. However, when Chen-ning saw the beautiful village belle and then looked at her sallow face and skinny body, she was afraid that Xie Shijun would not like her. She was afraid that the village belle would threaten her marriage. So she did one thing. She planned for the village belle and Yi-song to fall into the water and let everyone in the village see it. At this time, many people still cared about reputation. Even the village head had to let his daughter marry that poor educated youth. When she saw this, Tang Guo frowned. What about the rest of the plot? Dear host, this is this world, and it's written by a scammer author. That's all I've written. As for what happens next, I don't know. It's all up to the host. Chapter 573. Since there was no more plot, Tang Guo did not dwell on it. She browsed through the plot again and realized that the village chief's family was not bad. They were harmonious and she was very satisfied with this background. She also realized that Yi-song was quite interesting. He could silently fight with Chen-ning for a lifetime. Yi-song is the most tolerant man I have ever met. Tang Guo sighed. Suddenly, she felt a little uncomfortable and her face stiffened. That's not right. He insisted that nothing happened between them. Why? Perhaps the host was too beautiful? Tang Guo frowned. The system quickly tried to salvage the situation. Perhaps he was drunk. Tang Guo did not pursue this matter. It would be good if that guy was obedient. She calculated the time. Everyone in the family had gone to work to earn work points. There was one more year before the college entrance examinations resumed. At this time, many educated youths had received the news and were secretly preparing for the college entrance examinations. Yi-song was no exception. Under his suitcase, there was secretly hidden information about the college entrance examinations. It should have been sent from his family. Tang Guo reached out her small white hand and could not help but smile. One look and you could tell that he did not do any work. Her father, Tang Shogua, was a person who loved his daughter to the point of infatuation. He could not bear to let her be wronged. Her mother even treated her like a little cotton jacket, afraid that she would be wronged. Her two brothers, on the other hand, doted on their sister like crazy. They could not bear to let their sister be exposed to the sun and rain outside. Therefore, the family would each do a little of Tang Guo's work. They were not afraid of not being able to support her. Even though she was born in this era, this body of hers had not suffered much. The only thing that displeased the family was that their precious daughter, their precious little sister, had been taken by a gigolo. Early in the morning of the wedding, Yi-song was chased to the fields by his family, leaving her to sleep in here alone. Tang-guo went to the kitchen. Indeed, she saw white mantus in the pot. Needless to say, they must have been left for her. There were a total of 4 and she ate 2. The white mantus in this era tasted really good. She had a lot of delicious food in her hands, but they could not compare to this for the time being. After eating, she greeted the people in the group, telling them that she had arrived in a new dimension and that they didn't have to worry. Then, she left the group and curled up in bed. Yi-song was dragged out to work by his father-in-law's family early in the morning. He did not stop working the whole time. Fortunately, he had been in the countryside for quite some time, so he did not pass out directly. Even now, he still felt like he was dreaming. He had fallen into the water with the village belle and tainted her innocence. Now that they were married, how could he not control himself and sleep with her when he was drunk last night? Yi-song wiped his sweat. He felt that he had committed a grave sin. Actually, he was the one who fell into the water. The village belle was passing by and saw him, a non-swimmer, flopping in the water. She didn't think much of it and jumped down to pull him ashore. She was his savior. Song Shui felt a little apologetic, but it seemed like there was nothing he could do now. He thought of another person, Qining. It was not that he had any thoughts about Qining, but he felt that the woman was very strange. Looking at the yard in front of him, he remembered that there was still a sleeping, tender little girl in the house. Yi-song looked at his slightly dirty hands and quickly put the tools aside to wash them. He felt that he still smelled of feces. If he walked in like this, he would stink the little girl inside. He turned around and took a cold shower and changed into clean clothes. Even though his stomach was rumbling with hunger, he still liked to clean himself up. When he walked to the door and thought of his behavior, he could not help but laugh. Chapter 574. He pushed the door open, and sure enough, he saw that curled-up little figure under the blanket. He walked over quietly, afraid that he would wake her up. Looking at her exposed fair little feet, he could not help but walk over. He held her feet and stuffed them under the blanket. They were very smooth to the touch, and he had an urge to not let go. At this moment, he finally understood why the Tang family was willing to spoil her and wanted to raise her to the heavens. Now, he also wanted to do the same. Yi-song felt that this little girl was poisonous. He was also poisoned. As he thought about it, he looked at that curled-up ball and smiled. Thinking that she was actually his wife, his smile grew wider. Tang-guo lifted the blanket and revealed her head. Her beautiful eyes stared at the man in front of her. She was 18 years old this year, and Yi-song was 20 years old this year. Yi-song had been in the family Tang village for quite some time. Even though he was basking in the sun every day, he still looked very handsome. At most, his skin had changed from fair to wheat-colored, which actually made him look better. Yi-song was smiling when he suddenly felt that someone was looking at him. His eyes met with a pair of dark eyes, and he was shocked. The little girl's cheeks were white and rosy. They were really very beautiful, and he had the urge to go up and pinch them. He swallowed his saliva and walked to the side of the bed. His voice was especially low. "Did I wake you up?" "No." Tang-guo shook her head. Her gaze did not move away, and she kept staring at Yi-song's face. Yi-song felt a little uncomfortable, and his ears turned red. He was really embarrassed to be stared at by his beautiful wife like this. "Are you hungry?" "I just ate 2 white steamed buns." Tang-guo said as the corners of her mouth curled up into a sweet smile at Yi-song, and Yi Song almost fainted. On the day he came to the village, he knew that this girl was very beautiful. He really did not expect that she would be even more beautiful up close. Now that she was his wife, he had to look at this beautiful face every day. Yi Song felt that he was dreaming. It was not that he had not seen the world, and he had seen many beautiful girls, but he was sure that none of them were as beautiful as her. Tang Guo stretched out her hands from under the blanket and said to Yi Song, "Help me up." The little girl's soft voice made Song Jie melt. He hurriedly held her arm and gently pulled her up, for fear that he would break her arm if he used too much strength. Tang Guo threw herself into his arms, hugged his waist, and said in a low voice, "So cute." She laughed, and said to the system, "This guy is so cute in this world. Host, I wish you a happy life." Yi Song did not know what to do at all. Being hugged by such a soft body, his whole body was a little tense. "Yi Song, we are married." Yi Song's expression turned serious as he replied, "Yes, I will be responsible for you." This was something he was willing to say. It was a thought that came to his mind when he was in contact with her. They were already married. In this life, she was his wife. "Not only do you have to be responsible for me, you have to love me and dote on me." "Yes," Yi Song said without thinking. After saying that, he felt that it was natural for him to be good to her. "Guogua, I will be good to you. You are my wife." Tang Guo let go of him, put on her shoes, and turned to the kitchen. She took the 2 remaining white steamed buns and stuffed them into his hands. She looked at him with a serious face. "You must be hungry. Eat. You will have the strength to work after eating." Chapter 575. Guogua, eat it. I'm fine with some coarse grains. Yi Song pushed the white steamed bun in front of Tang Guo and shook his head. His wife was white and tender. She would definitely not be used to coarse grains. He was a man. He could eat anything. Eat. Tang Guo broke the white steamed bun open and put it into his mouth. Yi Song chewed on the white steamed bun. It was not that he had never eaten food that was better than this, but he always felt that it was not as delicious as this steamed bun. He accidentally bit the little girl's tender finger as he held the steamed bun in his mouth. He could not help but suck on it before letting go. Looking at the little girl's red cheeks, he held her small waist and kissed her on the cheek. Tang Guo was not shy. She could not help but laugh when she saw the man's ears turn red. He was really cute. "I'll go to the mountains to take a look after finishing my work in the afternoon. I'll hunt some game for Guogua." Ever since he came to the village to be an educated youth, Yi Song had been living life day by day. He had never felt a sense of belonging. He thought that one day, he would go back. He had never thought of changing anything here, nor did he want to change himself here. However, this beautiful girl in front of him made him want to stay here for the first time. He hugged the little girl's soft body. His gaze swept past the box of clothes, and he was a little silent. Ever since he heard the news of the college entrance examination, his sister had sent him the materials. He had been secretly revising. With his results, it would be easy for him to leave here after the exam. However, now that his wife was in his arms, he could not bear to leave. And when he returned to his original place, he had a suspicion for the first time. Other than his sister, no one would want him to go back to that place, right? What are you thinking about? The plot of this world was not complete. Tang Guo could not guess what Yi Song was thinking. However, she vaguely guessed that he was thinking about the college entrance examination. "I heard from my dad that the college entrance examination is going to be reinstated. Yi, do you want to take the college entrance examination?" Tang Guo smiled. "If you want to take the college entrance examination, I'll ask my dad to arrange less work for you. It's not a problem for our family to support one more person. I've heard from my dad that you're a cultured person, so you definitely can't stay here forever. Yi-song didn't expect the girl to be so straightforward. All the girls in the village who married an educated youth would keep the news a secret. They were afraid that the man would run away after the college entrance examination. He hugged the little girl's waist and couldn't help but ask, "Aren't you afraid that I'll leave you after the college entrance examination? I'm so beautiful. It's your loss if you don't want me. If you don't want me, someone else will." Yi-song's heart tightened when he heard that. He suddenly had an idea. Why don't I give up on the college entrance examination? At that time, even if he was admitted, he might lose his wife. That would not be worth it. Guogua, I won't abandon you. How could he bear to do that? If he had to choose between the college entrance examination and his wife, he would choose his wife. He hugged her tightly. "You're my wife." Tang Guo lay in his arms and laughed happily. "Ah Yi, are you going to take the exam or not? If you do, I'll support you. If you don't, you won't have such a good opportunity in the future. This is your only chance to go out." Yi-song was silent for a while. He stared at the little girl in front of him who was seriously considering for him. There was only one impulse in his heart. He stayed and didn't take the exam, just for her. Leaving this place was not the only way out. In the past, he was unwilling. Once he had a goal, he could create a world for himself anywhere. Soon, the world would change, and his chance would come. Instead of returning to that place to fight with others, it was better to stay in this small world and develop with his wife. "I'm not taking the exam." He wrapped his arms around Tang Guo and buried his head in her neck. "Guogua, believe me. Even if I don't take the exam, I'll let you live the best life. It won't be worse than those rich wives in the capital." The corners of Tang Guo's mouth curved. This man is really capable. Only a man who had set his goal was willing to work hard. Chapter 576. I'm really not taking the exam. During lunch, Yi-song announced the news in front of the whole family, shocking everyone in the family Tang village. Originally, everyone was very hungry, but when they heard Yi-song's decision, they couldn't care less about eating. Everyone's eyes fell on Yi-song, the young man. Tang Guo's eldest and second brothers, Tang Tianyu and Tang Tianheng, also widened their eyes. After being stunned, they looked at Yi-song in a better light. Brother-in-law was not taking the exam, which meant that he wanted to stay and was different from the other educated youths in the village who were secretly preparing to run away. It was not that they were biased against the exam, but the family Tang village had a different culture. They respected educated people, but those educated youths did not leave a good impression on them. At first, those who came down were not able to work, ate a lot, and did not work much. They were also very arrogant, and not many people in the village liked them. Later, reality hit them hard, and they accepted their fate and started to work hard. They had to work hard to get food, and if they did not work, they would starve. Some of the female educated youths could not take it and married the villagers, so that they would not starve. Some of the male educated youths also hooked up with the village girls who were slightly better off, and they were laughed at by many people. Their impression of Yi-song was not very good. Yi-song was not very active in his work, but he would not slack off either. However, he always seemed to only do what he wanted to do. Now that Yi-song was their brother-in-law, they knew from the start that he was an educated person, and his status in the past might not be low. In Tang Shogua's words, this young man was most likely a young master from a rich family. When they heard Yi-song say that he was not taking the exam, everyone was stunned. Tang Tianyu couldn't help but laugh out loud. If you don't do well, brother-in-law, you can just stay in Tang village and live a good life with my sister. Yes, 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 work hard. My sister is so obedient, it's your fortune to marry her. Not taking the exam is the right thing to do. Shut up, what do you two brats know? Tang Shogua slammed the table, and Tang Tianyu and Tang Tianheng did not dare to speak. They even shrunk their necks, but their eyes clearly said, Dad, it's good that you're not taking the exam, then brother-in-law will not run away. There were so many people in their family. Even if their brother-in-law was a gigolo, as long as he treated their sister well, they would still be able to support him. Xiao Yi, you have to consider this matter carefully. In the beginning, Tang Shogua was also afraid that Yi Song would use the college entrance examination to run away and make his precious daughter suffer. However, when he glanced at Yi Song, who was looking at his precious daughter with a doting expression, the corner of his mouth could not help but twitch. They had just sat down on the table, and Yi Song had already supported them as if they were holding a treasure. Tang Shogua's expression was also indescribable. Then he thought that she was indeed his precious daughter. She could even win over the most virtuous educated youth in the village. Yi Song smiled. Dad, I've already made up my mind. I'll stay in family Tang village from now on. Tang Shogua still didn't quite agree. When he first saw Yi Song, he knew that this young man wasn't simple. As long as he was given a chance, he would definitely soar into the sky. However, the other party's subsequent performance was mediocre, so he probably wouldn't stay here for too long. Now that he suddenly gave up on the college entrance examination, he felt that it was a pity. If you're giving up the exam for Guogua, I don't agree. At most, you and Guogua can revise together starting tomorrow. There are so many people in the family, it's not a problem to provide for the two of you. You can take the exam together. Luo Chunli also agreed with Tang Shogua's suggestion. Yes, you can take the exam together. Chapter 577. The family Tang's reaction was what Yi Song did not expect. He looked at his little wife sitting on the side and then looked at the family Tang people who kindly advised him to take the college entrance examination. The sense of belonging in his heart increased again. Dad, Mom, brothers, I gave up the college entrance examination because of Guogua, but that doesn't mean that I gave up my bright future. I haven't mentioned my family situation to you before. My family is quite complicated. Even if I take the exam and go back, it will take me several years to go to school. Moreover, I've been away for a long time. According to my brothers' personalities, there may not be a place for me to settle down. It's better to develop in the family Tang village. Dad, believe me. I won't let Guoguo live a hard life with me. Yi Song held the little hand that reached out to his palm and squeezed it gently. He suddenly felt satisfied. Instead of returning to that family full of fighting, it was better to stay in the warm family Tang village. I told Guogua that in the future, I will let her live better than the rich wives in Beijing. Hearing this, Luo Chunli could not help but laugh. It was the first time she realized that this cold son-in-law was so good at talking. Her daughter was still the best. As soon as she got married, she made Song Gaoling give a long speech. Song Gaoling was the nickname given to Yi Song by the village. Because he barely communicated with people when he came to the village, countless girls in the village struck up a conversation with him, but he always said, well, oh, sorry. After Yi Song answered Tang Shogua's countless questions, the family Tang people finally understood his determination to stay. In order to show that he was serious, he sent the review materials to his sister in the afternoon. At this time, a copy of the review materials was still very precious. When the family Tang people saw that he was so determined, they stopped persuading him. Instead, they treated Yi Song better and better. After finishing his work in the afternoon, Yi Song came back. He took his tools and prepared to go hunting in the mountains. When he was about to leave, Tang Guo came out of the house and hugged his arm. "Ah Yi, I'll go with you." Yi Song looked at his wife's tender little face and white little hands. He thought of the weeds in the mountains. What if his wife's skin was cut? Just as he was about to shake his head, Tang Guo dragged him out with a smile on her face. "I want to watch you hunt." The young lady's smile was too sweet. Yi Song couldn't control himself and nodded. He took the opportunity to hold his wife's hand. "Then I'll hold Guoguo's hand." After walking out of the Tang residence, Yi Song finally realized what he had just promised. He glanced at his excited wife beside him. He couldn't help but sigh in his heart when he didn't say anything about sending her back. Such a beautiful wife was also a kind of trouble. If he wasn't careful, he might do something that went against his principles. "Ah Yi, what are you going to do in Family Tang Village?" "I want to set up a factory." Tang Guo was a little surprised. "Why did you think of this?" "What factory?" "Food factory. In addition, we plan to lease the mountain and raise chickens. When we have a certain amount of funds, we will gradually liberalize the country. We will improve the environment of Family Tang Village. For example, we will build buildings." It was quite easy to say, but it wasn't easy to do, especially at the end of this special period. It was also because of this that some things were easier to do. Tang Guo didn't ask anymore, but Yi Song couldn't help but tell her his plan. "In a few years, the standard of living in our country will gradually improve. The food factory will focus on all kinds of canned food and holiday gifts. It will be very popular." Chapter 578. And in the future, it won't be strange for every family to eat meat every day. It's necessary to raise chickens in the mountains. Even if no one buys them locally, they can be sold to other places. The richer the family, the more they value natural products. The more expensive they are, the more they will like it. In a few years, the country's population will swell, and the standard of living will improve. The so-called basic necessities, food, shelter, and transportation will mean that people will think of ways to improve their environment. Housing will be very important, and finally transportation. Before that, we can develop Tang Village into a paradise and a tourist attraction in the future. Tang Guo couldn't help but communicate with the system. "He hasn't been reborn, right?" "No, dear host, he just has good taste. It should be related to the environment he grew up in. Some people are born to be spoiled. It's like their brains are on fire." Tang Guo was envious. A guy who hadn't been reborn could almost describe the future situation in terms of food, clothing, housing, and transportation, and even the future of Family Tang Village. "Guoguo, what do you think?" Yi Song realized that his wife didn't speak. He lowered his head and saw that she was in a daze. He thought that she didn't understand. "If there's anything you don't understand, I'll explain it to you slowly." Yi Song felt that it was necessary for him to explain everything to his little wife. Not only did he want to improve himself and develop Family Tang Village, but he also wanted to improve with her. It wasn't that he looked down on her background and thought that she was shallow. It was only when the two of them improved together that they wouldn't be too far apart. Only when the two of them had constant topics to talk about could their relationship grow deeper. After chatting with Yi Song for a while, Tang Guo found that this man was very charming and attractive. He was a very cute person. He was really considering everything for the future. He even told her tactfully that he wanted to improve himself continuously. She couldn't help but laugh. He also said that if she had anything she didn't understand, she could ask him at night. The two of them improved together. He didn't plan to treat her as a vase at all. Tang Guo looked at Yi Song's chatty face and her eyes curved into crescents. Yi Song occasionally noticed his wife's gaze. His ears turned red, but he still held her little hand and didn't have any intention of letting go. Being looked at by his wife like this gave him the urge to do great things. Thinking about the past, he felt like he had been fed to the dogs. When they arrived at the mountain, Yi Song let Tang Guo stand in a safe place while he ran through the bushes. In the end, he hunted a wild rabbit and caught 2 wild chickens. Tang Guo also picked some wild vegetables. In the end, Yi Song held his wife's hand and carried the well-hidden prey down the mountain. The two of them looked so loving that they shocked the villagers who passed by. Is that young man Song Jiqing? It seems to be Song Gaoling. The one beside her is Tang Village Belle. Yes. Oh right, they just got married yesterday. Everyone looked at each other. Song Gaoling actually smiled, and it was with Village Belle Tang. However, the two of them did look very compatible. When Chinning was working, she overheard someone talking about Yi Song and Tang Guo. She lowered her head and smiled. Whoever met Yi Song would be unlucky. She and that man had been tormenting each other for a lifetime, and she was finally free in this life. Let's not talk about anything else. The two of them do look very compatible. Chinning curled her lips. So what if they were compatible? That man Yi Song was useless except for being a little good-looking. In her previous life, they were husband and wife in name only. That man had been mediocre all his life. It turned out that he was only good-looking.